We know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British men. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners. Raised up the children to worship their images. Set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, smash the like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I promise you won't regret it. Now I'm going to do a special kind of broadcast. This is a broadcast that I do from time to time. Really helps me connect with the folks, help those who need assistance, answer questions to those that are seeking answers. But for those out there that are not familiar with me and my work, welcome. I'm Mike, a citizen of the Muskogee Creek Nation, full-time genealogist and researcher focused on American Indian history within the Native Black American community. My work centers on uncovering histories that were hidden through racial reclassification, paper genocide, and erased records. On this channel, we dig into genealogy, historical documents, indigenous identity, and truths that mainstream history often leaves out. Now, tonight is an open call-in show, so everybody's welcome to participate, whether you completely disagree with me and believe all Black Americans come from Africa, or whether you already know about the indigenous Black presence across the Americas and have questions about genealogy research, tribal citizenship, family history, or American Indian history. I want to hear from you. The call-in number is 405-351-4721. The number is also on the screen, and anybody can call in live. Now, while we wait for live callers, I'm going to go ahead and make some callbacks to people whose calls I've missed previously. And whether you're watching this live or catching the replay, you can always call that number to get in touch with me. If I don't answer immediately, then I'll call you back as soon as I can. And if you're interested in like genealogy services, historical research, learning more about your ancestry, then make sure to visit my website, nativeblackancestry.com. I've got a lot of resources over there on the website for you. But without further ado, let's blaze through some of these callbacks. I've got about 200 callbacks from people whose calls I've missed over the last few days. So we're going to knock them out, and we'll see if some folks want to call in live as well. And for anybody watching live or watching the replay, let me know where you're tuning in from. I always like to get some feedback as far as what part of the country you guys are located in. And it looks like the first person to get a call back, we're going to start with people over on the East Coast. And then we'll work our way to Pacific Standard Time. We'll start with this 248 number right here. And give me some fists or feathers in the chat if you guys can hear the dial tone. I'm going to make sure the audio is working.
Hello?
Hey, you're live on Mike TV. I'm returning your call.
I'm sorry, this is who?
This is Mike TV. You previously called into my broadcast.
I'm not for sure why you're calling me.
Oh, because you called me first. I'm just returning the call.
Really? What do you actually do?
Well, if you have a question, we can start there. But when you start off with a snooty attitude, talking about what I actually
What are you talking
do,
about?
I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer since you called into me. That means you were
That's what I'm
watching
asking.
me. You were watching my
You know
channel.
what? You're
So
a white asshole
let's
who's
not
just
play
fucking
games,
dumb.
lady.
Dumbass.
What's that? Guys, we got our first troll of the evening. Round of applause for the first troll. Good Lord, good Lord. This is what happens when you make your phone number publicly available, if you catch my drift. 267 area code. We're going to call you back. And if the lady wanted to troll, why didn't she do it from a blocked number? I mean, good Lord. You can look at anybody these days.
Hello?
Hey, this is Mike TV. You're live. I'm giving you a call back. How you doing?
What's up, Mike TV?
Oh, staying busy. Too blessed to be stressed.
All right, man. I'm glad you gave me a call. Hold on a minute, Mike.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, brother. I would like to get one of those readings.
You're referring to the genealogy consultations I provide?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, most def. And before I walk you through the steps of booking a consultation with me, I gotta ask, how long have you been watching the content, and what kind of motivated you to start looking into your family's genealogy?
I've been watching the content for probably a year,
Nice.
like a year. And at first, I didn't think it was nothing major, me not knowing my genealogy. But as I start listening and I start hearing the people, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wanted to get in. Plus, you revealed some truth, like I just didn't know.
Yep.
So I'm trying to find out. My peoples, I was told they are from Georgia, Sandersville, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get to know them. I never knew like my father, but I want to. So
Yep.
Mike, right now, I'm sorry to say this, but this is not a good time. I am I'm in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and I'm the chairperson, so I have to set up and everything, and I have to get in there with my speaker.
Yeah,
So,
no worries. I totally understand if you have to go. As far as booking a consultation with me, all you have to do is go to nativeblackancestry.com, click on the book now button, and it pulls up my calendar. You can select a day and time that works for you. But with family in Sandersville, Georgia, that's historically my tribe's ancestral homeland, as a Muskogee Creek Indian. And there were, several other tribes in that area as well. And there's a history of, paper genocide, racial reclassification, these different Black indigenous people being taken as prisoners of war, forced to work on plantations, or being displaced altogether. So, that's the kind of history that I can help you break down during one-on-one consultations. And I can also teach you that 3-step process that me and my family used to trace our heritage and get tribal citizenship.
okay, so it's a good chance that I could find my people.
Yeah, no, as far as finding your people, that's exactly what we do through paper trail genealogy research. Now, of course, it doesn't always result in something like tribal citizenship, since that's been a heavily politicized process. And, there's been a lot of European settlers that have infiltrated tribal roles and found themselves in, leadership positions within some of these tribes present day. But as far as finding out who your ancestors were, sourcing documentation, birth certificates, death certificates, military records, land allotments, land patents, Indian rolls, and really figuring out where your ancestors fit on the broader spectrum of American colonial history, that's exactly what we do.
Okay. I look forward to getting in touch with you. The last name is Poole, like, and I don't know, like they like, how would you find that find out what's what them like with the name of pool, like.
Yeah, no, as far as researching the history of that surname, that's something that you can do by looking at colonial records, different migration patterns, different indigenous homesteads that were converted to plantations. You know, sometimes a European from the East Coast, wealthy plantation owner, will come into the South once Indian removal starts, and they'll rebrand a whole clan of indigenous people as the Johnsons or the Turners or this or that. So there's many different reasons why you can have a last name like that. It could be due to assimilation. It could be due to Europeans grafting themselves into indigenous bloodlines, or it could be due to indentured servitude or plantation slavery. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff that the genealogical records research reveals. But, you know, I totally understand if you have to get to your meeting. I'll go ahead and transition to the next caller. But if you are serious about booking a consultation with me, just make sure to use the coupon code TikTok. That's one word, all lowercase, and that's going to hook you up with 20% off your genealogy consultation.
Okay, I'm so glad you called, man. I just I didn't expect it right now today, so
Yeah, no, my bad.
I just yeah. Can
For
you
sure.
maybe call me again another time, or is it
Yeah,
just one
well,
and done?
no, so I do these live call-in shows all the time. So if you catch me on YouTube and I've got the phone number posted, you know, don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, you take it easy. Have a good
All
one.
right, man.
Bye-bye. All right, let's call this next person back. We're making some pretty good progress. It sucks because I can talk to some of these people forever, but it's like with so many callbacks to make, I gotta keep it a little short, but I don't want to, but I gotta.
Your call has been forwarded to.
Alrighty. And yeah, for folks watching live or watching the replay, let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. I find I have a lot of viewers over there on the East Coast, as well as Midwest.
Please leave your message for.
Speaking of which, we're starting with the East Coast right now as it pertains to these callbacks. Oh, and I know there's some naysayers, there's some detractors, some contrarian individuals that want to have a debate, so don't be scared. Call in. You'll be in the chat talking about we Africans. Yeah, y'all lucky in the age of artificial intelligence. Your boy is giving you live personal callbacks. Where they do that at? You can't say I don't care about you. I ain't even got the AI chatbot giving you a call. It's me in the flesh and blood.
Hey,
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 you're
Mike.
live on Mike TV, giving you a call back. How you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. So I tell you what, you are an inspiration. So I wasn't watching you live right now, but I knew you made phone calls back, and I'm moving into another room. So my dad is from South Carolina. My mother is from Virginia, Tappahannock. They call it the Northern Neck area. My mother's history is easier to diagnose than my father. My father wasn't around, and our last name is Goodlet, and it goes back. We don't know where it goes back to because
How do you spell that?
Goodlett.
Lett. Goodlet.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I got you for sure.
yeah. So what is it? I know I'm live, I guess, so I'm kind of tongue tied here.
Oh no, you're good.
I have never called a show in my life. I mean, I was born in '73, and I don't think I've even, I mean, when we were coming up, you would call a radio show trying to win tickets and stuff. I don't think I ever did call. I might have donated. I might have donated to PBS, the radio stations, one time. But anyway, make a long story, I do remember doing that. But so that you might be about the third, maybe fourth phone call I ever made on the telephone. I'm not discouraged though about my family's history. My father was in the military, which means he had to have had there's some records, and I'm finding. So I don't know a whole lot about him, and he didn't live to be that old. So right now I'm the same age as he was when he died. So it really got important to me. He's got half sisters and one half sister that's alive. He had brothers and sisters, but none of them are alive anymore. And his mother isn't here. So his mother, from what we understand, has we're not even, because my mother is gone, the person who married him, and she had I got two older sisters, so they were married and together for a long time before I'm the last child. So and my sisters don't know much more than I know. Matter of fact, probably less. Because they were girls, they didn't hang out with my mom or my dad for real. They were. I was a bad kid. So and I wanted to say that when I first started the conversation is that when I was coming up, and I would hear these stories about Native Americans and things, and I was like, this ain't a problem for y'all. Like, this seemed like a problem to me. It just seemed like a problem. It just didn't seem like being in the United States was a solution to and living halfway decent lives. I went to Catholic school, and
they got
I wasn't. Yeah, well, yeah, I wasn't. I mean, but no, I say that to say I wasn't. My family wasn't. My mom was a single mom by the time I was coming up. By the time I was 12 years old, my dad was out the house. So it was like I was the last boy. I'm spoiled rotten, but I didn't have everything I wanted. I just didn't need for anything. I didn't know it at the time. You know what I mean? So being grateful for the way I came up, I know I was educated more than some others. Because first of all, Catholic schools didn't take a whole lot of, and I got kicked out. Yeah, I did. I got kicked out. By the seventh grade, our school went to the eighth, and I was out of there. My mom said, well, I'm not spending money for you to get suspended again. And every year, they're going to try to terminate you this year, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, oh, all right. So I went to public school. But it's not that I didn't know how to learn. I didn't like what they were teaching. And I was like, why am I remembering this stuff? So anyway, none of it ever seemed to connect to me. And the further I got into school, the more it didn't connect. And I never was a book person, but I had to learn my history, and I had to learn some of the Pan-African things that I know you And I understand that even they're being misled. You know, I can totally deal with that, because I believe there's so many lies that they're trying to cover up. There are very few people that know exactly where the lies are buried, and they call it the library. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everybody knows. No, they, and like you said, I don't know if you talked about it, but some of the incidents that happen in certain cities and things, it's unexplainable. It's an atrocious restart or some sort of cover up. But somebody knows, and I appreciate your aspect, because I have no doubt that I have Native American in my mother's family, and I really don't have any doubt about it being in my father's family, being from Charleston, South Carolina. I can't think of the name of it, because you caught me off guard. But it's South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina. I don't know why I'm thinking Charleston.
So that surname Goodlet, is that showing up on your maternal or paternal side?
That is paternal, father.
Paternal, okay. And you mentioned the Carolinas. Do you know if any of his side of the family were ever in Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, Georgia?
No, not for sure. Not for sure at all. I mean, I look at where South Carolina sits, and where Greenville sits, and it's right off of the northwestern edge of, I believe that's Tennessee.
Yeah.
I believe that's Tennessee. So, you know, there's all sorts of, you know, cross-pollination, if that's what you got to call it, from state to state or whatever. So, yeah, I'm not sure of, and not to mention I was a truck driver. So when I would be going through towns, they have a Goodlettsville, Tennessee. And I'm like, where did that come from? And you know, when I hear, I did a little ancestry recently, being as though the 16th is my father's birthday, and not to say that that's edging me on to do the find out where he is, because I'm always doing it. I just haven't put it together, and I think that's what I may be getting on Ancestry, your Black Ancestors website to further explore.
Yeah,
so,
you mean nativeblack.ancestry.com?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I got you for sure. Yeah, most definitely. And see, that's really the importance of doing, you know, paper trail genealogy research, because, you know, when you have these kind of questions about a surname like Goodlet, or you see, you know, areas named after the Goodlet name, you know, that's a surname that has Scottish Irish origins. And most people are not aware of this, but the Scottish and Irish traders have been intermixing into Southeastern indigenous tribes since like the 1500s. You know, they would marry an indigenous woman so they can get certain trade privileges, get title to land, et cetera, et cetera. Or sometimes, you know, they convert indigenous settlements into plantations, and, you know, that surname could pop up in your family due to indentured servitude or enslavement, or due to intermixing with the, you know, European settlers who are, you know, grafting themselves onto indigenous women so that they could, you know, find their way into possession of riches, since, you know, our indigenous societies were matrilineal. So even though these indigenous children would have a European father, you know, we still let them be a part of the tribe. We don't discriminate because of that mother's lineage, right? So these Scott Irish, you know, they were real clever with mixing into these tribes and these bloodlines, and really using that as a way to further their colonial agenda.
Yeah, I'm definitely hearing more about that, and my I appreciate all the different aspects of the natives I'm hearing about. I mean, because I recently traveled out to Vancouver, and I feel something. And now when I'm truck driving, it's a little bit different than when I travel by train, and I travel at a great expense of my own, but I wanted to actually like breathe and see the country. And that was just a little trip for me to do this year. And the whole Northwest area, I met some people. And I recently made contact because I've seen your podcast before, but and I sat and I watched it, and I never saw all of that information up there. It might have been up there for the telephone number to call and everything, but I got inspired over the last couple of weeks to really put my foot forth at it a little bit more.
Yeah.
The worst thing about it is, now that I've heard what you said, now I'm a little confused because I consider Native American, and then I from what I understand, you're saying there's some West Coast that's not connected, and then I'm like, but what about Hawaii? And there's some of the natives there, and I'm like, I don't want to be that would be my only and I don't know enough to argue with you, but you hear me?
Well,
you hear me?
Well,
but
when you mentioned the Hawaiians and stuff, what comparison are you making?
No, I'm just saying that I know there was Queens of Hawaii. There was a whole heritage of Hawaiian people who weren't as light as they are now.
Yeah.
So first of all, I that part I know there was some melanin over there, and not only melanin, but there was some cooperation with even the mainland. Even they traveled back and forth from Hawaii back to the mainland, and so and I know what some of the Europeans did to those people, and all of those islands down through in there.
Before you mentioned the Hawaiians, you said like the Indians West and like the Indians you've seen. Are you talking about like the Asiatic Plains natives, or?
Well, see, that's what I don't know.
Okay,
because in other words, I hear these names. My first trucking job was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I had at that point I hadn't been further than probably Pittsburgh out of Pennsylvania. I'm from Philadelphia, and I probably hadn't been out of Pittsburgh. Oh, and that was the other reason I called, because this knucklehead from Philly had called the same day, and I was like, oh no, this guy, I think he was some kind of Cuban or something. I can't remember, but he was from one of the Spanish and he was trying to say, oh, you know what if you don't shut the hell. But anyway, I couldn't let him represent Philadelphia like that. He sounded like a stone cold gutter boy. Just flipping his fingers like he knew something. But anyway, or doesn't know how to ask how to find out, put it that way. Because I don't know it all, but I know.
And real quick, could my live audience on YouTube give me some fists or feathers in the chat if you guys can still hear my caller? I want to make sure that the audio is still good for the folks on YouTube. But yeah, so it sounds like you're saying that you have a little bit of confusion centered around the different ethnic groups of American Indians. Is that right?
Yeah, because and I always knew about the $5 Indians too. Well, I ain't gonna say always, but I've known for a long time about that sort of pay into or buy into. And like I said, my first job in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I got to meet some people, and I didn't know that I was meeting some people. Now I don't know who they were and what they represented, but I really enjoyed their company. You know what I mean? Like they felt like home to me. Also, even out in Kansas, I met some good people out that way. But then I do know that some of it is fake native or whatever they want to call it, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So a good way for me to break this down for you easily is basically, there's, just for example's sake, in North America, there's 3 main ethnic groups. I'm only going to cover the first 2, since the third ethnic group is found in Alaska, and most of us have roots in the Southeast or the East Coast, not really Alaska, right? But the first ethnic group would be the true indigenous people. They're known as the Anasazi. They're the descendants of the Mississippian mound builders. These would be the Black indigenous tribes all across the Americas. When the Spanish first came to the Americas, they called the indigenous black people they encountered negros de terras, which literally translates into native blacks or blacks of the land. So from day one, any European that came over here was saying that they're coming across black indigenous people. The second ethnic group are who we refer to as the Plains natives. Now, even though the Plains natives are still running around saying they're Native American, really, they're the first immigrants. These would be those Asiatic, Mongolian-looking folks living in teepees, roaming with the buffalo in the high desert, northern Mexico, Colorado Desert, New Mexico, right? This is like the Apache, the Comanche, the Arapaho, the Navajo. They are not the true indigenous people of this land. They were the first migrants from what is now China and other parts of Asia. And that's evident. We can just look at the cultural continuity between the indigenous tribes of Asia and Siberia and these quote unquote Native Americans living in the plains present day. Now, when we talk about the Black indigenous presence, I mean, that's something that's remarked all the way from the most northern parts of North America, like parts of Canada, all the way down to the Caribbean, Central America, the Gulf Coast, South America. I mean, we've got the Olmec statues in La Venta. We've got the whole entire Yucatan Peninsula with a rich Black indigenous presence, and it's all documented. So the main difference nowadays is that there's confusion because mainstream media has convinced everybody that the phenotype of indigenous Americans are these Asiatic, straight hair, Mongolian looking folks. And all that is media manipulation and propaganda. That's why they did the cowboy and TV shows and commercials and all those movies. And they would actually hire Asian and or Italian actors to play Native Americans in movies. So, that's why nowadays we think that, unless you look like one of these Asian folks, you're not a Native American. When you actually look at the records, though, the records say that the original tribes were copper colored, woolly haired, kinky haired, approaching to be black in some parts of the Americas. So, it's really just the difference between media manipulation and true indigenous history. Now, another thing you got to think about, if we're just thinking about things critically, if those Asian folks are really the first ones here, why do we only see their presence in the plains, the desert? I mean, if they're really the first people here and they have the lay of the land and they can choose to live anywhere in the Americas, I mean, they didn't want to live along the Mississippi River Delta system. They didn't want to live in Florida, the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Central. Oh, they wanted to live in the desert, living hand to mouth, roaming with wild beasts, living in teepees. No, they had to live there because the rest of the Americas was already inhabited by Black indigenous tribes. And there's even hieroglyphs and petroglyphs on Aztec Maya temples and stuff depicting these Black indigenous warriors fighting these Asiatic straight-haired invaders. This is documented. So, nowadays when we see these plains natives getting online talking about you Blacks aren't indigenous, you're really from Africa, we got to remember these have always been our natural opposition. Sometimes our bloodlines have intermixed with some of those neighboring tribes, but most of it has been staunch opposition, even more recently with the Buffalo Soldiers pushing them to the reservations that they're sitting on today. So, it's a lot of history to unpack, but all across the Americas, Oceania, Melanesia, the indigenous people were closer to Black than they were to the pale-faced white people that you see now.
Okay. Look for me shortly. I'm not working right now, so I'm not going to take on any extra debt. But I can make good money, so I'll be able to pay you soon. And I'll be on there soon. I didn't want to buy your ebook because I'd rather have a hard copy. And I know you said that hadn't come out yet. Yesterday, I think it was. I heard you.
Yeah, no, it still hasn't came out yet. But everybody that purchases the ebook, I grandfather them in to a discounted rate on the hard copy, so it's not like they got to turn around and buy the book all over again.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But yeah, no, it was a pleasure connecting with you. And whenever the time's right, you can go to nativeblackancestry.com, schedule a consultation, pick a day and time that works for you, and I'd be happy to connect with you further.
Okay. Beautiful thing. Thank you.
Yeah, you take it easy.
Yeah,
Stay safe on them roads.
Right. Yes, sir.
All right, peace. All right, and you know what? We had that 904 number calling us back. Let's try to get back in touch with them. Shout out to Jasmine in the chat.
Hello.
Hey, you're live on Mike TV, giving you a call back. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm staying busy. Can't complain. Uh, let us know where.
I've been watching the show. Oh my god.
Oh, yeah,
So
nice.
cool.
Nice. Well, let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Well, I'm calling in from Florida, and I'm just pretty much. I've been discussing with my family and my friends. I have family that originated in Dooley County, Georgia,
hmm
and we're possibly looking at getting our card, but I'm not sure if it's worth it simply because I don't want to be a part of something that doesn't want us. And I don't know if I'm feeling right about it, So
Yeah, no, no,
something
I
you
totally
could help
understand where you're
help
coming
me see,
from.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. And rest assured, you're not alone. A lot of people have the same conflictions with, well, my ancestors, I think they are indigenous. I think they're probably associated with this tribe, but nowadays the tribe is so white, and they done did so many grimy things to black folks, and do they even want us a part of the tribes, and yada yada yada. And while it's totally valid for you to feel that way, um I would definitely look at it from another perspective. The same thing can be said about the United States government. The
Yeah.
United States government enslaved us, Jim Crowed us, segregated us, lynched us,
Yeah,
massacred
for
us,
sure.
right? But we're not
Yeah.
going to renounce our US citizenship and move to another country because this is our
Wow.
ancestral homeland. And in that
Wow.
same vein, we may have imposters that have infiltrated our tribal communities. Some of them may be in leadership positions with these tribes. They may try to disenfranchise Native Black Americans, suppress the history of Native Black Americans. But why do we allow their actions to keep us from our birthright, which is citizenship
Mm.
with the tribes that our ancestors were a part of?
Wow. That's that's
Perfect
that's
example. I can give you a perfect case study. Have you ever heard
okay.
in the news about the Creek Freedman controversy?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Now, do you have an understanding of that, or have you just more so like heard about it, but you still have some questions? You still kind of don't know what's really going on with it.
Yeah, I was reading about it last night, especially about the Freedman band, I believe.
hmm
And I kind of understood it, but that's what brought me to the conclusion that, you know what, I don't know if I want to be a part of something that doesn't want me. But you're absolutely right about, our country, the way it is. And I have family that originated in Lowndes, Valdosta, Georgia, and they're listed on the, census as mulatto, mulatto, mulatto. And then I see this Freedman stuff. So yeah, I know we didn't come from Africa. I do know that.
hmm
I'm starting to really get that through my thick skull. So we're not African.
Yeah, I feel
And
you.
so the Freedman thing, yeah, if you would, I would love it if you would just put it all together.
Yeah, well, let's start here. When you hear the term freedman, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What do you think the definition of a freedman is? And don't worry, there's no wrong answers. Just let us know the first thing that comes to mind.
Um, I used to think that it was uh enslaved people who were freed.
hmm
That's what I used to thought. I know better now, but that's what I used to think.
Yeah, I feel you. Not a problem. Absolutely. And you know what? I gotta ask you. Do you have the YouTube video playing as well?
No, I don't. I do not.
Okay. Because if you were able to get the YouTube video playing on another device, I can, give you a
Mhm.
visual representation as well. Open up a
That's amazing.
whiteboard
Let's do
and
it right
really map it
now.
out for you. But I'm not sure if I caught you at work or something.
No, no, no. Hey, it's going. The TV is going directly to that because I'm watching it
Perfect.
24/7 anyways in my entire family. So
Nice.
it's
Well, shout out to the
good.
family. It's a family affair. Okay.
It's a family affair now. Now it is. Now it
hmm
is.
That's what's up. But no, as far as breaking down this Friedman stuff, just let me know when you got the video playing on the YouTube. Make sure to keep the volume down on the other device so there's no like double feedback. But I'll pull up a whiteboard and dive into it deep with you.
Okay, let me turn it all the way down. And okay, YouTube is opening right now. Thank you for this. This is wow.
Yeah, not a problem.
touching,
That's what I'm here for.
amazing, all that good stuff. Okay, let's see. And there you are. See, you like the third, the next to the commercials. You're like number one right there on YouTube, on TV. Okay, hold on 1 second. And here we 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom.
All right, so give me just a moment.
There you are.
For folks who are watching live, the audio is going to cut out for our caller for just a second while I change my screen share. Let me transition over here to an online whiteboard. All right, let's do a little sound check. Say something real quick so we can see if they can hear you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, live studio audience, give us some fists or feathers in the chat if you guys can hear the caller still. And we'll go ahead and break down this hidden history.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, everyone.
Oh, yeah. Give me just a second. Okay. Shout out to Jolena. You guys can hear her. Perfect. So, what you said was valid. When you think about the freedmen, originally you thought that these were like slaves of the Indians or something like that. A lot of people even think that the freedmen are like African slaves that like married Indians or something, and now they're part of the tribe. I mean, there's a lot of confusion centered around this whole freedman thing. A good way to break this down is let me bring up a marker here. And for everybody watching, this is part of the historical context that I provide during these one-on-one genealogy consultations that I make available through my website, nativeblackancestry.com. But I'm down to give you guys a little freebie. We always down to get some free game, okay? So you can see on the whiteboard where I drew Freedman, right?
Okay, it's just a lagging. Yes.
Oh yeah. It's probably just going to be a little bit lag between us talking and it showing up on the video. Now, first of all, when we hear the term freedman, a lot of people assume that a freedman is someone who was enslaved, then got their freedom, emancipation, manumission, whatever you want to call it, and now they're called a freedman. In actuality, it's way more complicated than this. First of all, we got to understand there's two different types of freedmen. There's going to be freedmen of U.S. territory, and there's going to be freedmen of tribal territory. Now, what's the difference between U.S. territory and tribal territory? Geographically, not much at all. We might be in Alabama, and some of the local land is owned by an American Indian tribe, so that's tribal territory. The rest of the land is owned by the U.S. government, so that's U.S. territory. So, they don't have to be separated a lot, geographically speaking. And if we start to cover some of the similarities between these two different groups of freedmen, we can start here. In U.S. territory, there were some folks that were enslaved, and then they got freed, hence the term freedmen. And sometimes in tribal territory, the same thing would occur. You'd have some folks that were enslaved, they get their freedom, and now we call them freedmen. But what most people don't realize is that in U.S. territory, you also had folks that were never, ever enslaved, but they still got reclassified as freedmen anyways. For example, I've got an older lady last year that hired me to trace her family's genealogy. And when I presented the results to her, I showed her where her great-great-great-grandfather had a labor contract negotiated through the Freedmen's Bureau in Louisiana during Reconstruction era. So she says to me, "Oh, Mike, my grandfather was a freedman, so he was a slave." Well, I then showed her the 1830 Louisiana census where her grandfather is listed as a free person of color. Not only that, he owned plantations. Not only that, he owned slaves. But wait, there's more. I found the actual purchase agreement where he was buying slaves to grant them their freedom. It was called manumission at the time. He would actually write in the contract, "When this transaction is concluded, so-and-so is free and has the full protection of my family." But you see how she would assume that her grandfather was a slave at some point because of this freedman label that gets slapped on him later in life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, in that same vein, in tribal territory, you've got free Black indigenous people that were never, ever enslaved, But when it comes time to sign up on the Dawes roll, they get racially reclassified as freedmen.
God. Wow.
So people are being classified as freedmen just based off of phenotype alone, not based off of whether or not they were actually a slave or not.
That's so infuriating. It's good to know. Wow. I'm flabbergasted. I'm just
Yeah. Well,
wow.
hold on, buckle up, because the rabbit hole goes deeper. Okay. We
Wow.
know that Indian removal was the 1830s. That's when the Trail of Tears began. Do you know how the Dawes roll was created?
No, not specifically. I do not.
Okay, well, let's play a fun little guessing game. We know Indian removal, Trail of Tears starts in the 1830s. How long after Indian removal do you think it took until they came up with the Dawes roll? Some people think it happened the same year, 5 years later, 10 years later, but if you just had to throw out a guess.
I would say hopefully 20 years within those years. I would hope.
Yeah, so sometime within the near future, right? About 20 years or
Yeah.
so, right?
Yeah.
Well, you may be surprised to learn that the Dawes roll was not created all the way until 1895.
Oh, wow. That's terrible.
Talk about it. Now, most people are surprised when they hear about that. They're like, well, Mike, that's much longer, time period that I would have ever assumed. I mean, what was going on between the 1830s and the 1890s to where all of a sudden the U.S. government is trying to keep track of who's a part of what tribe and yada, yada, yada. Well, this is what happened. Back during Indian removal, even though they were forced, sometimes by gunpoint out of the Southeast, they still technically had a treaty with the government. And the treaty said that in exchange for relocating out of the Southeast, these indigenous tribes would get hundreds of thousands of acres of land west of the Mississippi. It would be known as the Indian Territory. The U.S. government said no white folks will ever step foot on your land. You guys stay west of the Mississippi. We stay east of the Mississippi. Everything will be gravy. And that's exactly how it went for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. But what happened was over time, some white people had snuck into Indian territory, and they reported what they saw back to Uncle Sam in Washington. And they sat down with Uncle Sam one day, and they said, hey, Uncle Sam, respectfully, have you lost your damn mind? You don't realize that all this land we just gave these Indians is rich with oil?
Oh, my God.
I don't have to tell you what the U.S. government does when they find out you're sitting on a bunch of oil, do I?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Come on. Now, the U.S. government had an issue. On the one hand, they definitely are wanting to steal these Indian lands so that they can start pumping that oil. But on the other hand, optically, that's going to look a little too shisty. I mean, they just forced all the Indians out of the Southeast, took their land, gave them this land in exchange, and now 60 years later, they're going to come take back the land that they were given in exchange for the other land that was taken. I mean, they had to figure out how to do this clean, like in the eyes of the media, right? So this is what they do. The U.S. government gets Henry Dawes. That's who the Dawes roll is named after. Henry Dawes is a Massachusetts senator. They get that white boy and his friends out to Indian territory west of the Mississippi to create the Dawes Commission, where they start picking and choosing who's an Indian and who's not an Indian no more.
That's terrible. That's just wow. Well,
Most people don't know.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that's how all these tribal rules were created. We naturally assume a tribal role is just like the tribe keeping track of their tribal members.
Yeah.
No, white federal agents are in charge of the role. They get to determine who's on the roll, who gets rejected, and they would straight up interrogate our ancestors in their own homes. What's your name? Speak the language. What tribe are you? Who's your grandmother? Who's your grandfather? And if they didn't like the answer to one of their questions, or they just didn't like the way that you looked, well, they rejected your tribal role application and you got reclassified as a Negro.
Goodness, this gets worse. Yeah, you're right.
No, it's going to keep getting worse. It ain't never going to get better. Hold on. Not only that,
Oh my
But if I come
goodness.
over here to the Dawes rule real quick,
Hmm.
I'll give you a perfect example. I've got ancestors on the Dawes roll listed as full-blooded Indians, half-blooded Indians, freedmen, everything in between, Creek, Choctaw, you name it. But just for
Wow.
example's sake, I'll use my ancestor Pleasant Tobler. That's my great-great-grandfather, born in 1903. You
Okay.
can see him right here. Let me zoom in a little bit. You can see him right here. Pleasant Tobler listed at 2 years old, male, blood quantum 1/2. There's that roll number 1017, and he's listed as a Creek by blood newborn. Well, now let's take a look at people listed as freedmen. You see the Creek freedman right here. You see a Choctaw freedman right here. You see a Chickasaw freedman right here. Cherokee freedman right here. It doesn't matter the tribe. Notice everybody labeled as a freedman has a blank spot. Do you see these blank spots here?
I see that.
See these blank spots? That blank spot is the blood quantum category. When that white federal agent rebranded you as a freedman, they purposefully did not write down your degree of Indian blood.
Oh my God. It's so emotional.
So
Oh
when
my
you hear
God.
about the Creek freedmen trying to get their citizenship rights restored in the tribe, this is the setup. They put them down as freedmen. They don't write down their blood quantum. And then years later, in the 1970s, 1980s, when a lot of these white folks find themselves being chiefs of the tribe and stuff, they changed the tribal constitutions in the middle of the night. No vote. And this is what they changed it to. They said it's no longer good enough for you to have an ancestor listed on the Dawes roll as part of the tribe for you to have citizenship. From the 70s and the 80s onward, they said you have to have an ancestor listed on the Dawes roll as part of the tribe, and they have to have a blood quantum recorded.
And they deleted everything, or it wasn't there. They
Yes.
omitted everything.
So
Wow.
overnight, hundreds of thousands of black folks get kicked out of their tribe. Why? Because their ancestors were written down as freedmen on the Dawes roll and purposefully not given a blood quantum.
Gosh, that's so sad. Wow.
And these Creek freedmen and other bands of freedmen and other tribes have been suing and advocating to get their citizenship rights restored. The freedmen in my tribe, the Creek freedmen, they've been making great leaps and bounds, but they're still fighting an uphill fight. They still haven't gotten their citizenship, even though July 23rd of last year, they won a ruling in our tribe's own court. And our tribal court said they are entitled to citizenship. They should get it. But our chief is still trying to delay it. He's trying to block it, all kinds of stuff. So this circles back around to what you're talking about when you say, hey, these folks are doing black folks dirty. Do I really still want to be a part of this tribe?
Yeah. Oh my
Well,
God.
my tribe is doing black folks dirty. That's not going to stop me from my birthright. That's not going to stop me from what I'm entitled to receiving as far as benefits or recognition as an Indigenous American. Matter of fact, when I did my genealogy research, I found that like my 6th or 8th time great grandfather, his name is Thomas Jefferson Adams Harjo. He was a black chief in the tribe. He was also the Chief Justice of the Muskogee Creek Nation. He's written about in
Wow.
history books, and he was advocating against Indian territory being turned into the state of Oklahoma, which is exactly why they did the Dawes Rule and the Dawes Commission in 1895, because that was all to pave way for Oklahoma statehood in 1907. And we already know what happened once Oklahoma became a state. Jim Crow moves to town, segregation, KKK, Black Wall Street is burned, et cetera, et cetera. So my grandfather is living during this time. He's fighting against it. He's even racially reclassified where there's some professors trying to allege that he had African descent and stuff when he's listed on the Dawes roll as a full-blooded Creek by blood, part of a very elite family within the tribe, right? But am I gonna let what the tribe's doing stop me from continuing the mission of my ancestor or stop me from
Right.
receiving the reparations that citizens of my tribal nation are entitled to, whether that's cash payments or free healthcare, free dental, free college tuition. I mean, there's numerous benefits being a citizen of, an American Indian tribe. But a lot of people have the mindset that like, oh well, they're probably just gonna reject me because I'm black, or they're gonna act weird, or I'm gonna go to the powwow and
Yeah,
they're gonna look down at me. Well,
that's where I'm at.
me and my family have been citizens of the Creek Nation since 2021. I even lived in Oklahoma, not too far from a reservation, for an entire year. I have never stepped foot on our reservation. I've never been to a single event. I don't need to schmooze and rub elbows with people that I don't see as my true kin, or folks that are doing shady things to other melanated people. I mean, I don't need to try to interact with them or be friends with them in any way to get the benefits that I am entitled to. And in that
Wow.
same vein, when you apply for tribal citizenship, they're not looking at a photo of your ID and are like, oh, you're too dark, we're going to reject you. No, it's based off of if you descend from an ancestor who is documented as a member of that tribe. That is your birthright. They have to accept you no matter what. So what they do is they just deter you from applying for tribal citizenship. They make sure to keep publishing all these media programs and TV shows and movies convincing you that Native
Yeah.
Americans look like Asian folks with straight hair. And
Yeah.
every other year we got a slave movie telling us that we're
Liberian.
West African slaves. So, imagine how many folks in our community don't even do their genealogy, don't even trace their family tree, don't even look for indigenous ancestry in the first place, because they're getting hoodwinked by multiple different things, whether DNA tests or another Henry Louis Gates Finding Your Roots episode where he's trying to laugh in
Yep.
your face about thinking grandma was Indian, right? I mean, this is what they have
Yep.
to do to try to
100%.
stop us from our birthright.
Wow. 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 I was feeling one way before this phone call. I was like, I just put it, I have a picture of my great 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 grandmother, and I just looked at her picture, and I can send you a picture of her. And I just looked at her and I'm like, last night I told her, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm going to try to fight for tribal membership or anything like that. And I know that's not me to like give up.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't think that I was like trying to find like, hey, send a sign if you want me to sign up, because it just doesn't sound like they want us. But I love what you're saying, that it's not about them, and it never really has been.
Not at
And
all.
we don't move like that anyways as a people. We don't move like, hey, care about what other people think and what they don't think about us. So wow, this has kind of lit a fire up under me to
Yeah.
get back.
Yeah. Hey, the
This is
US
like
government did us
honestly,
dirty, enslaved us, miseducated us. They did all these colonization schemes to try to convince our ancestors to move to Africa and all this stuff. Our ancestors didn't want to go for a reason. And in that same vein, we shouldn't allow people to deter us from being recognized as citizens of the tribe of our ancestors. That's our
wow.
birthright. We're entitled to it. Cut the check, proverbially speaking. And to finish out this example, when we talk about blood quantum, let me show you how much of a pseudoscience blood quantum is. Because when people see the example that I'm using right now, my ancestor, Pleasant Tobler, and he's listed as 1/2 blood quantum, right? Well, some people might naturally ask, hey, Mike, what's going on there? Were one of his parents white, the other one Indian? Were, one of his parents African, the other one Indian? Well, no. Both of his parents were full-blooded Creek Indians, but his father,
Wow.
Fred Tobler, was too dark-skinned. So when he applied for citizenship, he got reclassified as a freedman, placed on the separate freedman role, and freedmen don't get a blood quantum. So now Pleasant only has one parent, his mother, with a blood quantum listed. So now he's 1/2 Indian blood. Whole time, there's not a single blood test that's being done. There's not a DNA analysis that's being done. Your blood quantum is exclusively based off of what your ancestors were classified as by European federal agents.
Go figure.
But when we hear that the Creek freedmen don't have no blood quantum, they don't have no Indian blood, we think, oh, these must be Africans. These must be foreigners. They're not actually a part of this tribe like that. Like, well, what's going on here? No, blood quantum is a pseudoscience.
Wow. God bless you for this. God bless you for this.
Yeah, it gets
Oh
deep.
my, you're lighting a fire up under
And then
me.
furthermore, because some of us have ancestors that did relocate out of the East Coast to the Southeast, walked the Trail of Tears, went west of the Mississippi. Some of us have ancestors that stayed in place and didn't
Yeah.
relocate, whether they
Nope.
remained free or whether they were indentured for a period of time. But to drive this example home, when we talk about these Black Indigenous people in U.S. territory, these are going to be the people who did not walk the Trail of Tears. Some of them were taken as prisoners of war. They were reclassified, enslaved. They get their quote unquote freedom after the end of the Civil War. But these folks, nonetheless, are getting reclassified as freedmen and having their wealth and land stolen by who? The Freedmen's Bureau.
Wow. Mm. Wow.
The Freedmen's
One of
Bureau is
my
also the entity behind the Freedmen's Bank scam, where they're responsible for billions
wow.
of dollars of generational wealth being siphoned out of the local indigenous Black community.
Wow.
They also
My
had freedmen labor contracts, which was basically a new form of slavery where they forced you back onto the same plantation working for your same previous slave master. But now you've got a freedman labor contract. So even though you can't read the contract, you put your mark right there and you're free because we told you you're free. But really, the labor contract says you still have to call this person master. You still have to work sun up to sundown, 6 days a week. You still live in the same slave quarters you used to, but you're free now because when harvest comes, you're supposed to get a percentage of the harvest. So they call it sharecropping. In actuality, what would
mm,
happen is when harvest time would come, the plantation owner pulls out a ledger and says, "You know what? I know I owe you a percentage of the crop, but you owe me back rent for that shack you've been living in. You owe me back rent for the tools of mine you've been using. You owe me back pay for all the food I've been giving you. You were sick a few times. You owe me money for the medicine, right? Matter of fact, you're in debt to me. So you and your generations are going to work my land for free." That's
mm.
sharecropping. It's eerily similar to slavery, right? I mean, it's just a legalized form of slavery. I mean, the Union were not great emancipators. Abraham Lincoln was not a great emancipator. He was trying to ship folks to different colonies and stuff, talking about I'll only make you free if you agree to voluntarily deport yourself. Look up Isle of Aceh or Lincolnia. These are actual experiments that Lincoln co-signed where they actually shipped Black folks to islands off the coast of Haiti, and it ended up terribly. They were basically enslaved all over again. A lot of them died. So when we talk about the Union, we have to get rid of this fairy tale fantasy of them being some great liberators. They were not. It was never called the Great Freedom Era. It was never called the Great Emancipation Era. It was called the Reconstruction Era. The Union
Wow.
came to town because the South had shit popping. They had the labor force, they got the textiles, they got it going, right? So the South wanted to succeed from the North. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. If me and you are married and I say I want a divorce, it'd be crazy if you said, "No, I'm going to invade you and you're not going to divorce me and I'm going to go to war with you," which is what the Union did. And they perpetuated a lot of massacres on Black enslaved populations on their march through the South. Look up the Devil's Punch Bowl. Not only that, but when they came down, they were basically coming down to control the labor force. Instead of the South having folks as indentured or slaves or whatever system they had in place, you now have a freedman labor contract. It's now managed by the North, but these Black folks, they have the illusion of freedom because you have a choice. You go back to that same Southern plantation under the guise of being a sharecropper, or you can come up north and work in a plantation factory. And we all know how it went for the folks who moved up north: Chicago, Detroit, lynchings, massacres, segregation, Jim Crow, et cetera, et cetera. And then guess what? If you think that you're not going to make a choice, if you just going to chill and smoke with the fellas and drink and stuff, the Union has anti-vagrancy acts where if you're just chilling around town, they'll call you a vagrant. They'll say you're idle. And if you don't have a labor contract, they will force you into a chain gang as a prisoner to go work a plantation. So, I mean, that's what they call freedom from slavery, right?
Oh my gosh, this is so technical. I love it. I love the pictures too. I'm the type of person I have to see something to understand it, and what I'm seeing is clicking. It's coming together because I was looking last night and I saw one of my ancestors. my great great grandfather, he was on a Freedman role, working, and they had him working like year after year, and I kept seeing like him on this role, in different little towns and cities, and I'm like, is this the same person? Why is he working so much? I thought it was like 10 different guys, and it was just him, just all over the place working in lower Georgia area, like the Valdosta Lowndes and so on and so forth. And so I wanted to ask you about that. So with him being on that role, and I noticed after that Freedman Bureau closed, then they moved here to Florida. I noticed that.
I
So
see.
were they like working him like that? Were they working him so hard like that?
Yeah. That's a situation that a lot of, quote unquote, emancipated people in the South faced. Absolutely. There was even free people of color who were never enslaved, leading up to the Civil War, but they still find themselves in this Freedman Bureau labor system post Civil War. So again, when we look at this example on the screen, the Black indigenous people that stay in the Southeast, the East Coast, they get racially reclassified over time. Some of them are enslaved, some of them are free, but they all get rebranded as freedmen and get their wealth stolen by like 1890s, 1900s. Now,
Yep.
the folks in tribal territory, these would be the Black indigenous people who did relocate. They walked the Trail of Tears. They went to what would later become Arkansas, Oklahoma, et cetera, et cetera. And they get their wealth stolen and they get reclassified as freedmen by the Dawes Commission. So these are two different government agencies, both doing the same exact thing, stealing wealth from Black indigenous communities and reclassifying them as freedmen.
Mm, 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 mm. Wow, my poor grandfather. I don't know. Wow, I think he thought he was going to something better. And I noticed that they were saying how it was like you were just saying, a monopoly. Like the last names kept being the same from
Mhm.
Georgia to Florida. It was like the family or something, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it gets deep. And this is what, I help people sift through when it comes to those one-on-one genealogy consultations I provide. Because it's like one thing to know how to do your family genealogy, but it's another thing to have the historical context on colonial American Indian history to really put the pieces together.
That's right. That's right. Because that's something that, and I've been looking at my family genealogy for like 20 something years. And there are different nuances that I have not considered. And just looking at this, everything is just, it just makes it so emotional because this is the part that the census doesn't say this, it
Mhm.
doesn't say all this. So it's like, wow, it adds what you're doing is you're adding a human like reality to what these people, it makes their names jump off the page. So I'm going to definitely have to look into, and I'm tired of looking. So I think I need some fresh eyes on this.
Yep, I feel
Oh
you.
my God.
And hey, just to finish out um, this example here, also when we talk about these different indigenous communities, we gotta really understand why in 1895 the United States government gets the Dawes Commission to create the Dawes Roll and all that. I mean, I already kind of went over how it's because they knew there was oil there and they wanted to take the land, but this is more specifically how they seized the land. What they did is through the Dawes Commission, they forced the tribes into individual land allotments. Now, most people hear about land allotments, Indian land allotments. They think, oh, Indians are getting some land. That's a good thing, right? No, the land allotments were terrible. This is what the land allotments were all about. If you and I are part of a tribe, let's say we're both a part of the Creek Nation, just for example's sake, and let's say there's 40,000 members of our tribe. And collectively, we own 100,000 acres of land. And I say collectively because American Indians had no concept of privatized land ownership. They held their land in communal trusts. It's all of our land. We're all utilizing the land, right? So if the US government wants to come and steal these 100,000 acres, they've got 40,000 Indians to fight head on. So what does the US government do? Well, through divide and conquer tactics, they force the tribes to accept individual land allotments. The US government doesn't say, hey, stick it up. give me your land right now or else. No, they say, hey, listen, we're your friends, and you're gonna do what we say or else. But listen, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm gonna be gentle with you, okay? We gave you too much land 60 years ago, so we're gonna need some of it back, but we're gonna make sure you still have a fair piece of that said land. So what they did is they forced each individual tribal member to accept privatized family land allotments, and in order to get a land allotment, you have to register on the Dawes roll. And then over time, all these land allotments fall into the hands of European settlers because they send the KKK to go terrorize this family off their plot of land. They get this one through eminent domain, this one through taxation, et cetera, et cetera. And over time, all these Indian land allotments are no longer owned by Indians. But not only that, the Dawes Commission said, hey, any land that's left over after we're done giving you guys land allotments, well, any leftover land we're going to sell to white settlers to start drilling for oil. That's why you hear about the oil gold, or excuse me, the oil rush, the Sooners, the land lotteries, the races out there. Because what happened was when they signed you up on the Dawes roll, they said if you're listed as a bi-blood Indian, we're going to give you 160 acres of land per person. But watch this. You're going to see the financial incentive to reclassify people as freedmen. By blood, you get 160 acres of land. If you're listed on the Dawes roll as a freedman, though, well, oftentimes freedmen only got 40-acre land allotments. And remember, the U.S. government said all the leftover land we're going to sell to white settlers to start drilling for oil. So every single person they reclassify as a freedman, they just freed up 120 acres of land to go sell to European land speculators. And then years in the future, they'd end up kicking their descendants out of the tribes altogether under these blood quantum rulings. I mean, this is where the adage of the $5 Indian comes into play. A lot of people question that. They're like, yo, is that just like a quippy remark? Is that like history? Is that a myth? Or how would white people be able to pay $5 to be listed as an Indian? Because white people were in charge of the tribal roles. $5 in today's currency back then is $160. So that's a pretty good investment, right? If you can get your cousin who's an Indian agent or get somebody you know to take a bribe, and you can pay $160 to get 160 acres of land per person, that's a pretty good return on investment. So all the white settlers who were too poor to bid on the land and try to get the land that all these wealthy oil barons from the East Coast are trying to bid on, well, if you can't compete, you fraudulently get yourself listed as an Indian on the Dawes roll. You marry an Indian so you can get listed on the Dawes roll. You work out some way where you can get listed as an adopted member of an Indian tribe, et cetera, et cetera. And this is how they finesse the system. And this is why if you look at a lot of these tribes in Oklahoma to this day, a lot of their tribal members look oh so white, but the history records said Creek Indians, Cherokee Indians, Choctaw Indians were oh so black. So, colonialism is a hell of a thing.
Wow, this is amazing. And wow, I really do want to I want to look at the website more and get some more information about possibly just getting starting. I guess you have to start from somewhere, just getting more information about my family, and hopefully you can help me because you definitely put fire back under me. Yeah.
For sure.
Wow.
That's what I'm here for. But yeah, if you ever need more personalized guidance, just check out the website.
Okay.
You can even access my calendar, pick a day and time that works for you for that consultation. Through the website, I also have a digital archive with, book lists, primary sources, family photos, Black Indian obituaries, ex-Indigenous slave interviews, fugitive Indian slave ads. The receipts just are overwhelming in the archive. So if you ever want like some more definitive things to help you learn more about this history and stuff, then definitely check out the website.
Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate this. This is amazing. Everyone, I'll tell you what, I am flabbergasted and I'm happy at the same time. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure connecting with you. You have a good one.
You too, dear.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. And guys, before I call back that 323 area code, let me switch my screen share back and make sure that the audio is going to work. But yeah, some believe that the game is meant to be sold and not told. But I just dropped some free gems on you. That's actually a little piece of a segment that I do during those one-on-one genealogy consultations, because you really got to understand the history of Indian removal, how these tribal roles were created, to understand why some of our ancestors are classified the way that they are. But let me see here. And of course, there's so many more roles than just the Dawes roles. There's the Gunyon Miller role, there's the Armstrong role. So, I like to use the Dawes role as an example, but there's many, many tribal roles these white folks then started. But give me just a second here. I think we got the audio fixed. 323 number. I'm giving you a call back right now.
Hey.
Hey, you're live with Mike TV, giving you a call back. How you doing?
Much appreciated. Good evening, Mike. Man, dude, I'm so amazed that you picked up and just called back. Appreciate your work.
Yeah.
And I'm watching you, of course.
Nice. Well, it's nice to connect with you.
You're the hyperness, dude. That's what's up. You've been holding it down.
Appreciate that.
Yo, so I'm so happy you're live to really converse with you. Sorry about the extra energy, but how do you feel really, if I could pluck your brain, and you don't have to answer direct, but just think about it. How do you really feel about this maritime law with this Prince Charles coming over here? But mind you, I'm a Mississippian, come from Mississippi, from Nelson Street. Google it, all good with me. However, but it's like we're missing the frames. We have the maritime law. We need to deal with this right now. It's coming about. And this Prince Charles, or whatever the name is, that's meeting with and switching over the Americas into a sovereign state, in which we all know we are. However, it's still kind of questionable to me that I'm wondering. It's the proper time frame in which they were able to enact corporation over here, being a United States citizen. Now I got to sit up and walk. And knowing that this corporation is about to be, it's not about to be null and void, it's null and void. If we know about the Chevron doctrine and the time frame in which they had enacted with our previous, I don't know how to frame it, with our chiefs, that they did enact certain legislation with our chiefs back in the day. And just like when Nixon came about, when the United States had went bankruptcy once before, they didn't needed a third party or outside source to bring them back into the frame of mind of the United States acting still in the Americas. I just am wondering, at this time of frame when they're being null and void, and the Chevron doctrine and the British came over here, is it making sense? Like, they say they're giving up, it's back to the Americas again. Is it putting it in our shoes again, knowing that they're still creating laws around us? Our policies still? Like, I'm still confounded. I'm just confounded.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't necessarily understand your question yet, at least. I know you mentioned the Chevron document, the maritime law, Prince Charles, right?
Yeah, but like third parties, like the police, and all the laws all the policies that have been enacted in America for the United States citizens, not for the Americans. Now, all of a sudden, we come across this 14th Amendment subject matter, still dealing with the copper-colored people. And if we ration the 14th Amendment, it's still under a subjugation of a corporation. And they're still trying to dig us into that. To me, it's they're trying to dig us into this 14th Amendment civilitude, not knowing that if it's the Americas, we have sovereignty now with our own acts. Do you kind of I know I'm all over the board. That's why I just wanted to just throw it out there.
Yeah, so if you can help me understand, so are you saying that you believe your ancestors were Africans imported over here by colonial figures, or that they were indigenous communities overtaken by these figures in maritime law, or?
Oh, absolutely the first. I am definitely from Mississippi.
Okay.
Definitely.
Oh, and you know what? Hold on just a second. I did something with the audio, and I messed up the audio. Give me just a second to fix it for everybody watching. I want to make sure everybody can clearly hear what you say, because you was just getting into your Mississippi roots, I believe. All right, guys, give me some fists or feathers in the chat if you guys can hear her. But yeah, you can go ahead and pick up where you left off.
Oh, no, I'm definitely Greenville, Mississippi. I'm a 1977 baby.
Okay, got it, perfect. So, so if you believe that you descend from indigenous southeastern tribal nations, I really don't really understand the focus on what. Hold on just a second. I don't really understand the focus on this aspect of colonial governance, and I'll tell you exactly why. Our indigenous ancestors in the Southeast, they've had to persevere, continue surviving and thriving through many a different eras, regardless of who the colonial figures oppressing them were. At one point in time, our territory was overtaken by the French. At another point in time, it was the Spanish. And at another point in time, it was the British. And then the British have a little war, and now it's the British descendant Americans, right? But at the end of the day, we have to focus on us, our success, our happiness, moving forward, accomplishing our goals, persevering. But to get too caught up in the minutia of whether it's the 14th Amendment or maritime law or this and that, I mean, I always advise people to focus on what they can actually control. And we have no control over foreign corporate entities continuing to colonize us for several hundred years simultaneously, and whether they're going back to sovereign status or corporate status or maritime law. I mean, now if we had the power to combat that or to do something with that, then that's a topic for another discussion. But, you know, as it stands right now, a lot of us haven't even done our genealogical research to figure out where our ancestry fits into this broader history of American colonialism. So I always just advocate on starting there without getting too caught up in the politics, at least for the time being.
Very well. Well, thanks for conveying that, and thanks for taking a moment.
Yeah, for sure. Nice chatting with you. You have yourself a great day.
Ciao.
All right. Yeah. I try to let them down easy when they hit me with the overstand, understand, maritime law, black law dictionary, King Charles, Queen of England. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel you. It's rooted in fact, but come on. The U.S. government just took us to war with Iran. Do I agree with that? No. Can I do anything to control that? No. I ain't got a dog in that fight. Okay. I mean, it is what it is. So, you know, in that same vein, whether King Charles is coming to town or not, we got to keep on keeping on. We got to persevere. We got to keep our eye on the prize. And if our prize is not reparations, but rectification for what our ancestors went through generationally, then that's going to always start with genealogy research. And when we do that research and we find out exactly what was taken from us, how much acreage we own, who we were taken as prisoners of war by, et cetera, I mean, then we can really start moving differently. But let me call this 267 number. And we are live. If anybody wants to call in, feel free to do so. While we wait for live callers, I'm catching up on this callback list. I've got hundreds of people over the last few days that have called me. If you call and I don't answer, I'll give you a call back at my earliest convenience. But yeah, let's continue chatting with the people.
Hello.
Hey, you're live on my TV, giving you a call back.
Oh, hi. Hi. Um, I called a few days ago. Um, so I'm not like watching TV right now to see what you're talking about. So what are you? What's the subject?
Well, right now it's not necessarily a defined subject. I'm just really catching up on previously missed calls from the last few days and taking calls from new callers, whether you disagree that Black Americans are indigenous and you think we all come from Africa and you want to have a little debate, or maybe you already know that your family has indigenous ties and you have questions on genealogy or how to do research. This is a kind of a all encompassing live stream we're doing. But
Oh, okay. Yes, I
if you
can.
can remember, when you called a few days ago, do you remember what you were originally calling about? Or
Um, well, one of the things I would be lying to you if I completely said yeah, but I partially remember knowing that I was calling to say that I really appreciate and respect what you're doing. Because what you're doing is something. The information that you're releasing is something that will leave a big dent. Because all it takes is for a few people to know the information and to spread it. So what you're doing is really going to help change people's lives and in some terms self-esteem about who they are. Because I've had situations where I've went to, you know, Black appreciation, entrepreneurship meetings, and I've had quote unquote Black men stand up and say, where are we from? In the midst of, and there may have been like Asians or whites sitting in the audience, and it had gotten to a point where they excused themselves because they felt like it was a conversation we needed to have amongst each other. So,
well, I wonder what inspired him to have that conversation in front of foreigners in the first place, right?
Yeah, I actually answered and said to the gentleman, like, I think that's something that, because a lot of people in our group, especially when they talk about the Native Americans having higher rates of mental illness, that's what goes on in our community, the true Native Americans. Like that, because I am a mental health therapist, and most of the population of people that I serve are quote unquote Black. And, those are a lot of issues that they're really high in the community, as well as substance abuse. So those studies that they did were really probably more than likely conducted on us more than the actual, like what they say are the actual Asian Native Americans, which you can't really be two things at one time. You're either Native or you're Asian.
Well, you know what? I totally understand where you're coming from, but I would actually say that those studies primarily are probably based off of those Asiatic Plains native groups, because when it comes to our community, they don't even fund the research to begin with, and they sure as hell don't tie the issues in our community to our obscured indigenous heritage and all the hundreds of years of colonialism that we've had to deal with. So, believe it or not, them Asiatic imposters over on the reservations, they are down bad. I think there's like a 80% poverty rate on some reservations, mental health issues, the uncles touching the kids, they doing all kinds of amphetamines and selling fake travel cards to legal Mexican migrants and all kinds of shit. Okay. So they are definitely down bad. And those studies, I think, are geared towards them. But when it comes to us, I'm sure that you understand the importance of trying to wake up our community to our indigenous roots, because then we can really connect the dots between, what we're currently faced with and what our ancestors went through generationally. Because, they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme, right?
It's very true, and I'm definitely, I don't know everything, and I enjoy learning. So I will be patronizing you in the future to help me with my genealogy. But I do know that my great grandfather's name is on a Dawes scroll, and that's one side of the family that's from Virginia. So under Cherokee and Choctaw, and but I have to do further research concerning it. But everything that you say makes absolute sense when you really spell it out in a realistic, common sense way. Like, for example, when you stated, if you look at all the other Black people in different countries on the West Side, they have retained a lot of the African culture, even down to the food.
Wait, the west side of where?
The Western Hemisphere.
Oh, okay. You're saying that those that do descend from Africans trafficked here typically maintain their African culture.
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And also, and the fact that when you say that, or have said in your previous broadcast that we don't even, none of our music is anything like the people from Africa, none of our foods are anything like that. And regardless, people still will keep part of their culture regardless of what takes place. So, like, even for example, with us, we've taken like the English language and we have quote unquote Ebonics. So we've had our own dialects amongst each other. So everything that you said just makes total and complete sense when you really sit down and think about it. And no, we do not look like Africans. We don't. We don't have the same, and we don't have the same facial features. We may have some of the same phenotype, but we don't. Like, for example, if you want to get into blood types, a lot of Africans have A and B blood types. Over here, most of us have O type, and if you don't know, O type blood, in particular, O positive blood is the oldest blood type in the world and is universal. That's why when you go to the doctors over here as one of us, you better be very careful, with them giving you medicines that make you sick and other things that they'll tell you to take and use so that they can make you sicker, so that you can end up on a operating table and organs harvested. And so, as special as we are as people, and we are very special and precious to this world, we've made a lot of contributions to most of the things that other people utilize. Most of the inventions came right out of the true Native American mind. So just what I want to say to you is thank you so much. You're really, really appreciated. I think a week ago, I was listening to a young lady. She was just so happy about what you're doing for the community. She was actually crying. When you hear a woman crying about it, it really touched her. What you have to know what you're doing is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I
So
definitely feel burdened with purpose. So rest assured, I'll keep on keeping on.
yeah, and I really appreciate you. And no, we did not come from Africa. And I don't even think it's something to be debated. When we say we're not from Africa, we're not saying it to make Africans feel bad about or reject it. But we have to reclaim and know who we are, because when we go over there, they'll tell us straight up, you're not African.
Yeah, they'll tell us straight up. The most Pan-African member of our community will go take a trip to Africa. They'll call us a Yankee Akata, tell us we ain't from Africa. You ask them about the transatlantic slave trade, and if they got family that got shipped on boats by white people, they say, no, we don't know what you talking about. Y'all don't come from us.
Yes, I'm talking to Africans when I would go to the braid and hair salons. I don't go there anymore. My relatives do my hair.
Oh, there you go.
And
Thank God. Hey, I've heard some horror stories from the African braiding salons. Okay.
and they actually, I've heard Africans say that we never knew of any slavery that took place on their land. Like, they say that most of the slaves came out of the west side of Africa, Sierra Leone, Sierra Leone, Mali, Ghana, so on and so forth. I think that it happened to a certain extent, but nowhere near the extent that they say it happened.
Oh,
As
absolutely.
as a matter of fact, when I went to college years ago, I don't even want to say how old I am, but we'll just say years.
You forever 21, okay?
Forever 21 to a community college. It was called America the Nation. That's the name of the book. And then there it had documented that over 300 and something million people were trafficked from Africa over here to the Western Hemisphere. And when you look at what is it called? The statistics that they do every 10 years.
The census.
The census.
I think it's every 20 years or so. Yep. Or 30 years now even. Yeah.
Every 10 years. Yeah. The census, they when you calculate what's documented in the census, 300 and something million people is almost like the total population of people from Alaska all the way down to South America. And I was just like, that just does not make sense. It does not make sense, because they didn't even know how to wash themselves properly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
They didn't know, they would eat right next to where they would defecate and urinate.
Sleeping with the animals in the barn and shit, yeah.
Yeah. So how were they able to even create boats that could hold that many people? And then they came up with these stories about how the Africans were so strong, and they were able to endure any type of bacterial infection that a person gets, and it can be the smallest one. If left untreated, it spreads within days, and you will eventually die in about a month from it. So or have some serious major medical condition, so where it causes serious damage. So that's just, it does not, nothing that they've written in these books to continue these cascade of lies. One thing that I do know is that every so many 100 years, the framers and now their children rewrites history. That's why we had situations in Philadelphia where the powers that be in the government said to take information down about slavery, because every so many 100 years, or every 100 years, the history books and everything that they teach our children in the schools those things are changed purposefully.
They giving you a new math every 20 years.
Yeah, it's like even when I sit in school with the children, the way they taught us math in school is not the way they teach the children now, and it makes it harder for the children to comprehend. So, it's been so many lies told, and for what they've done so much to separate us, even down to complexion. Like you have some people that are light copper red, and then you have some people that are dark red, copper red over here in this country. And we need to get out of this mindset that if a person is light skinned, they're more than likely Asian. There is no, at one point in the beginning of time, before these other types of people came around, the only look that there was someone with copper or dark brown skin and 4C hair. I think it was about 8,000 years ago. These other people weren't even around to be found. So the question we should be asking is, where did they come from? Because we know that what I know is any type of blood type that has a negative in it is not completely human. And DNA type and recessive gene, or what is that, the rhesus genes, those are grafted blood types. So, we need to be looking at that, and stop being so duped and controlled by thinking that everything is based on what they sell you on TV about, only one type of phenotype belongs to indigenous culture in America. That's the biggest hustle and lie ever told.
Yeah. And also real quick, I want to correct you on one small thing though, okay? It's not that they wanted the Africans because they were so strong. They wanted the Africans because they are naturally docile. They are subservient. They worship the white man. Look at how these Africans move present day. They'll cross us on behalf of a white person instantaneously, okay? I can pull up images right now of them carrying British people through the Congo bush and all kinds of crazy shit, okay? So you got to understand that American Indians have always been warlike. The true Black indigenous people, they put up armed resistance. And when we talk about them trying to colonize parts of the Caribbean, Central America, South America, especially these coastal parts, well, the indigenous people, when they see that they can't beat them in armed warfare, they retreat to the mountains, they retreat to the jungles. And then what does the colonizer do? Well, it's too hard to go to war with these indigenous people. These indigenous people outnumber us. We're going to convert as many as we can to Catholics and Christians, mix our bloodlines with them as much as we can, but we need a good subservient labor force. That's why they go to West Africa, broker a deal with a local leader, a chief, to buy some slaves, because again, it's called the slave trade. It's not called the Holy War. It's not called the mass invasion. No white man ever bear crawled through the jungles of Africa and chased down an African on foot and threw a net on him and put him on a boat. No, he just went window shopping because Africans have been selling other Africans as slaves since damn near the beginning of time. I mean, look up the Arab slave trade in the 6th century. Like, Africans have always trafficked in slaves as commodity. But where did most of these African slaves go to? South America, Brazil. It's right on the other side of the South Equatorial coast, not that far from West Africa. Second largest destination was the Caribbean islands, because these indigenous people, after having contact, they would either flee to the highest parts of the island that the colonizers can't get to, or they would just get in their canoes and go to another island altogether, or go to the mainland. So, that's where the African presence comes into play. And yes, they totally overstate the amount of Africans that were trafficked. First, they said hundreds of millions. Now they say 12.5 million. And out of the 12.5 million, out of the 12.5, they say 10 million survived the journey. And then they even admit that out of the 10 million that they claim came over here, less than 4% of them actually went to North America. Most of them went to South America, which is where we see rich African culture to this day.
And not only that, a lot of every person that's dark, with coily hair, like us or whatever, in the Caribbean, all of them did not come from Africa either.
Yeah, no, not all of them. Yeah, so some of them did, some of them didn't. Absolutely, you can have a mixture.
So it's just they've been colonized so much with the Asians coming over there. Like the Asians have taken over. I mean, the Asians are have been like that sleeping giant that they talk about in the Bible. They pretty much taken over everywhere. That was their payback to the quote unquote white man. And even the Mexicans, to me, they look Asian. If you put that Asiatic looking Mexican next to an Asian, that's what they look like. And they get upset when you say that, but that's where y'all came from. I know
they refer to them as chinos because at one point in time, the Spanish, they were the main colonizing entity in what we now call Latin America, and they had something called the Manila slave trade, where they were trafficking Filipino slaves from the Philippines and from those islands into the Americas. So yeah, the average Mexican is part Spanish conquistador, part Filipino slave, part African slave. You might have some indigenous admixture, but yeah, there's a reason why they be looking Asian, but they don't want to talk about their Filipino roots.
They look really, when I see a lot of them now, there are some that are just, for dark 4C type, but the ones that look like Asian, they're Asian, that's their phenotype. And I met a man that was from Ecuador. Yep. And he was a repairman to come to my house to fix my cable or something. And he told me he was from Ecuador. And I was like, "You're from Ecuador?" I said, "You look Asian to me." He said, my family migrated generations ago to Ecuador.
Yeah, a lot of migration into the Americas, that's for sure. But hey, I'm pressed for time. I got to get on to the next call. I'm trying to work through a long list of callbacks. But before we wrap up, why don't you leave us with some closing remarks?
Well, what I would like to say to the audience is just patronize you, get their genealogy done, and I plan on doing that as well. Spread the information. Come with an open mind. Forget all that you were taught in the past from Alex Haley roots and all that nonsense they colonized us with in school. Use basic common sense. Even if you've done an ancestry, or I call it scamcestry,
those DNA tests.
DNA tests. If they can't connect you to a family member that's directly from Africa, because they so-called got samples from Africa, if they can't connect you with anybody on your tree from Africa, then you're not from Africa, you're from here. That's the biggest scam. That's another thing that they have been doing to
absolutely
bamboozle us and mess up our minds. Okay.
Back in the day, they may rename our institutions things like the African Methodist Episcopal Church to hoodwink us into believing we have African ancestry. But nowadays, they'll just give us a DNA test that say we 2% Nigerian, 20% Cameroonian, 3%. I mean, just playing in our face. And we know that the only thing that a DNA test can actually do is link you to the scene of a crime or link you to blood relatives that are in that DNA database. So if we all are supposed to come from West African slaves, then when we do that DNA test, we should have a bunch of 7th cousins in Ghana and 10th cousins in Nigeria and shit alive to this day. But we don't see that.
And what really blew my mind too is when the Asian lady was on your show, or you.
Which one? There's been a few of them.
The one that was the doctor who was talking about she's Chinese. She was on TikTok. She's from a whole nother country, and she did the scamcestry test, and they said that she was related to somebody And she's 100% Native American, and
Yeah.
she's never, none of her relatives or no one has ever been here. So just come with an open mind, forget all that you have learned through your colonization. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take it easy. Bye-bye. All right, guys, I'm gonna give that 915 area code a call back. They were calling me a couple times. Let's see if they pick up. We're gonna keep this broadcast going for another hour or so. If anybody wants to call in, the number's on the screen. All right, on to the next one.
Hello.
Hey, you're live with Mike TV. Giving you a call back.
Pardon me?
Yeah, this is Mike TV. I'm giving you a call back.
What do you mean?
Oh, I mean, you called my number, so now I'm calling you back to see why you called my number.
No, I never dialed your number. Sorry.
All right, if you didn't dial me, I wouldn't have your number, but you take it easy, pal. Oh man, some folks get a little shy. Good Lord. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Hey, give me some fists or feathers in the chat if you guys were here for like the first call of today or like the second call. I had some weird, catty little rude lady that was like, "Why you come?" I'm like, "Ma'am, you are too old to be playing on my phone. Don't be playing phone tag with me. Come on, not in your big old age." 386 number. We're gonna give you a call back now. Kosher was here. Shout out to Kosher Dragons.
Telephone number 3.
Well, you know what? What was that? 386 number? Let's mark them down. All right, 419 area code giving you a call back. And guys, make sure to check out nativeblack.ancestry.com. I built out that website with lots of resources for you.
Hello.
Hey, you're live with Mike TV. I'm giving you a call back.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm staying busy. Thanks for asking.
I know that's right.
Well, lay it on us. I know it's probably a couple days since you originally called. I'm just now going through my list of callbacks, but let us know what's on your mind.
Yes. I just want to say that I really like your channel. I like your show. I just came across it on YouTube not that long ago. So I have been, watching all of the, FBA stuff going on, and I personally, associate myself with being American Indian because, my family members always said something about, having that in our family. So I just started researching, and, nobody ever talked about being African or any type of, nowhere from outside of America. So I just appreciate the work that you're doing. And I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm out of breath. I just got done dealing with my son. So
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. I got a little man. I know how it is.
yeah. But I just wanted to reach out because I just wanted to know a little bit more off of the research I've been doing so far, and I wanted to ask you some questions and everything.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm here for. I definitely do provide those one-on-one genealogy consultations through my website, nativeblack.ancestry.com, where people can get more like private, personal assistance from me. But yeah, the whole purpose I do these, call-in shows with the phone number posted is so for folks like you, who have any general questions or need a push in the right direction, I can help you out free of charge. But yeah, if you have any questions, that come to mind, lay it on me.
Okay. I really wanted to know more, about Louisiana because my last name comes from Louisiana. My dad's side of the family, his father are he's his people. My dad's aunties and stuff were saying that we were Creole and that they came from Louisiana, and I'm in Ohio. I was born and raised in Ohio. So she said about like the early 1800s, they ended up coming up here to Ohio from Louisiana. And so I started looking up my name and my last name for down there. And the specific town that she said that my people were from is from Lafayette. And all I know is that the Landry name is like a big surname down there. And I don't know where to really start as far as that go, as far as really narrowing it down as far as finding the Landrys that I'm akin to and everything.
Yeah. And you said that surname was Landry?
Mm-hmm.
How do you spell that? Is that L-A-U?
Landry.
And do you remember what parts of Louisiana some of your ancestors were from? Was it like more like NOLA or more remote regions?
All I know is she said Lafayette. She mentioned Lafayette.
Okay, I gotcha. Well, first of all, when we talk about the Creole, we got to understand that Creole does not mean mixed race. A lot of people wrongfully assume Creole is like mulatto, and everybody wrongly assumes mulatto means mixed race, which mulatto doesn't even mean mixed race. But as far as Creole, Creole in French colonial terms literally just meant born in the colony. That's all it meant.
Okay.
Whether you're in Haiti, born in that French colony, or you're in Louisiana, the Southeast US, born in that colony, that's all Creole meant. So in that same vein, you've got different ethnic groups of Creoles. You've got the white Creoles that are French or Spanish. You've got the Creoles of color, or people listed on census records as free people of color or free persons of color. And oftentimes these are indigenous people racially reclassified, but not enslaved. Oftentimes they have a lot of land ownership, positions of power within that area of the colony. But you've also got the Black Creoles, which is more of a recent thing, where the descendants of these Creole communities who were racially reclassified as Black during Jim Crow, early 1900s, nowadays we would just refer to them as Black Creoles. But then besides the Creoles, you got the Cajun. They come from Acadia, Canada. So that's a whole other thing in and of itself.
Right.
But
and that's what I was looking up. Like I was going on, websites and stuff like that to, see if I could find any lore on the Landrys. And that's what I was seeing was Acadia and Cajun and stuff like that. So that's the only connection that I could get from my families was that, whoever the master was at the time or whatnot, that was the name that was given to them, and they might have been that. Or whatnot. So
absolutely. And actually the Landry surname is a very famous name within colonial Louisiana. There's Creoles, there's Cajuns, there's Acadians, there's a bunch of groups that find themselves with that Landry last name because it's such a famous one. But as far as why your family has that last name, that's something that can only be revealed through genealogical research. We've got to figure out, were they enslaved or indentured by a Landry family, or was there a Landry family that intermixed with a local Black indigenous woman and now those bloodlines merge, or were maybe during the process of being Christianized or baptized into the Catholic faith, certain indigenous communities were given certain first names and surnames as well. So there's many different reasons why we could have these surnames with European origin, but it's all about doing that paper trail research.
Okay. So the other question that I had was, even though I don't have like an American Indian citizenship card, could I still write that like on like applications and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's something called the right of self-determination. Yeah, there's nothing stopping you from marking yourself down as an American Indian when the next U.S. Census comes around, or on any of your records. Now, where we get into legal trouble is if you're trying to apply for benefits, claiming to be a
Mm,
citizenship of an American, or claiming to be a citizen of an American Indian tribe. Because technically, if you don't
okay.
have tribal citizenship, then you wouldn't be entitled to some of those tribal benefits. But as far as just how you identify, I mean, if boys can identify as girls, then go on. Who's
Yeah,
really going to stop you
because
from
that's
saying,
how I
hey,
feel. Like,
yeah,
I should be able to do that. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I
and
believe
I
it was the
do.
United
I've been doing it
Nations.
recently.
Yeah. And it was the United Nations. If you look up the UN right of self determination, it gives indigenous people worldwide the right to identify as indigenous to that part of that country or continent, regardless of if they have any tribal ties. Because, especially if you look at other parts of the Americas, right? It's exclusive
Hmm.
in like Canada and the US, where we have like such documentation and tribal roles and reservations and stuff. They don't have that in Cuba. They don't have that in
Hmm.
Honduras. They don't have that in
Hmm.
Suriname. They don't have that in Haiti, Puerto Rico. But what happened? Did all those indigenous people just disappear? No, they're
Right.
still alive to
They
this
got
day.
reclassified.
Yeah, they got reclassified, and they can continue that cultural continuity. They can identify as Taino or Arawak or Carib, whether or
Hmm.
not they're a part of some official government recognized system.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned Taino because just off of my phenotype, I mean, I'm brown skinned and everything, but it seems as if people can like visually see the indigenous in me. Like
Oh yeah.
they see it from my hair, my
We get it all
cheekbones.
the time. What are you? You're not just black, are you? You got to be mixed with something.
Yeah,
What are
they
you,
do that
Hispanic?
every time.
Mhm.
Yeah, like and that's sad. If only, people really knew like
Yeah.
majority of y'all look like this and majority of y'all, 9 times out of 10 your
Mhm.
families were reclassified as well,
Absolutely.
to be something completely different than what your ancestors knew to be, you
Yeah.
know?
Hey,
Um,
if the colonial authorities are giving you a label that causes confusion, then it's because they're trying to obscure your true identity. What is black? That's confusion. We're not black. We're not
right.
the actual color of black. Who gets to be black? There's Indians who are reclassified as black. There's Africans that come over here and claim that they're Black Americans, but they're really African American. I mean, what exactly is black? What
Mhm.
exactly is Negro? Negro is just a Spanish derivative of the word Negro, which means black, as in the color, as in dark skin.
Mhm.
Negro isn't an actual ethnic marker or ethnic group. This is colonial administrative fiction. I mean, what is mulatto? Some people think it's half white, half African, half indigenous, half white. I mean, what's Creole? What's
Yeah.
Cajun? What's mulattress? What's octoroon? What's a griffin? I mean, these are all terms meant to obscure our true indigenous heritage and confuse us.
Right. It's like the more that they can break us down in these smaller groups, the easier it is to control each group with whatever
Absolutely.
agenda that they want to push.
And then generationally,
Yeah.
they move us into new groups. That makes it even harder to go back in time and trace your origin, right? I mean, now we got the newest okey doke CIA COINTELPRO play. Now we got folks running around saying we're FBAs. What's an FBA?
Right. Right. I get so many recommendations and, I'm all for, the whatever the movement is particularly, but I don't care for calling myself that name because it's counterproductive. Like,
Yeah,
how are people really going to get to the root of knowing who they are if we're going to still continue to use this, this byword of who we are as black? Like,
yeah,
that's not fair.
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
not fair at all. Let
I
me
call
see.
myself a Muskogee Creek Indian. I call myself an American Indian, a Native American, an Indigenous American, a Native Black American. None of those terms cause confusion. You say any of those terms, and you know exactly what we're talking about. Being right here from the
Mhm.
soil indigenously. But with the whole
Right, and people
FBA
get real
thing, it's
quiet with
like,
that.
yeah, yeah. The FBA official charter says that they got shipped here in 1523 as African slaves, and then maybe some of them mixed in with natives and stuff, and then now they're trying to piggyback on top of the Black indigenous movement and claim, oh no, FBAs are indigenous, and I mean it's just all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And I was watching your live yesterday when you had brought it up when you were exposing Tariq and everything. And I never knew that it was a website. I don't care who it's ran by, but it's like, look,
They got an
you're not
official
gonna
FBA
be
website
genuine.
ran by him. They selling merch. He trademarked the name Foundational Black American, and it kind of functions like a cult, right? You know it does, because a telltale sign of a cult is anybody that questions them or tries to understand their actions or anything. They've got like a word to demonize and ostracize that person, right? They're an other, they're not initiated, they're a tether. I mean, we were supposed to think initially a tether just meant some foreign African migrant that wants to infiltrate our community, but really, if you just disagree with an FBA talking point or speak critically of Tariq Nasheed, you're quickly labeled a tether. So, you know, it's morphed into something that's a bit counterproductive, to say the least. And above all else, it was never about like exposing Tariq Nasheed in the sense of like demonizing him or throwing dirt on his name or trying to slander him. No, I exposed him by sharing with you guys his track record throughout the decades. Most people don't know he started off as a gangster rapper, rapping about food stamps and EBT. Most people don't know he pivoted to a Mackin' pimpin' pickup artist, selling books on pimpin', going on Conan O'Brien, talking about Mackin' women, going on BET, promoting Mackin' and stuff. People don't know he had a stint on a reality TV show, being a host of a show where he's teaching women how to be good gold diggers. Most people just are late to the party. They just hear the FBA, Tariq, and hear the buzzword reparations and think shit is sweet, but y'all don't realize that he was the biggest Pan-African of the 21st century as far as social media was concerned. He did those groundbreaking Hidden Color film series. Every single Hidden Colors film was a Pan-African film. He did one about the Haitian Revolution. And so, that's how we were all introduced to Tariq. He's putting on Umar Johnson, another Pan-Africanist. He clinking up with all the East Coast folks, the Dr. Benya, whatever the hell, all those conscious community folks. But you can tell that he's a grifter, because grifters, just like a political grifter will be dick riding Trump, MAGA, 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 MAGA all the way. But when you realize it's no longer socially profitable or popular to be pro-Trump, now you're okay. Trump, I'm disappointed in Trump. Forget Trump. I'm anti-Trump. I'm a Republican. Now I'm a Democrat. I mean, grifters go where the wind blows, and we see him go from the biggest Pan-Africanist we've ever seen, putting on people like Umar Johnson, who's defrauded our community out of over $1 million now with his school scam, and now all of a sudden he wants to just sweep it under the rug and act like he never did that.
And then now come with this new term for us to assimilate with.
Come on.
Yeah,
Let's talk about
it's sad. I really wish that, you know, our people took more time to, you know, really be active listeners, not just, you know, quick to comprehend so they can respond, but really like soak in the things that people are saying so that you could truly, you know, have the discernment to know if this person is for you or not, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But people be reporting to me about bullshit that they be hearing Tariq and the FBA say, and now all of a sudden, I guess Tariq Nasheed is promoting that he descends from Lumbee Indians. Now all of a sudden he wants to be in. It's popular to talk about being Black Indians, right? Then now, guess what? Oh, I looked in around. I descend from Lumbee Indians. I mean, why wasn't you talking that 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Y'all do know he's been on the internet doing this shit for like over 20 years now.
Yeah, because like I said, that was the way I got introduced to him. My grandparents, you know, they had found out about Hidden Colors, you know, when it first came out, and I was just, you know, getting ready to get out of high school. I had freshly went natural and stuff, so I'm all about like, who am I? And you know, the Pan-African thing was really popping at the time, right along with the natural hair movement. So I sat in and from the jump, I had my red flags. There was definitely some red flags going off back then, with watching the series and everything. So, I just always knew, like, yeah, I mean, we might have some type of, distant similarities between the two, but we're all human. We all are on the same earth together. So it's like, what else do you expect? People are gonna have similarities, but that does not mean that we're all indigenous to one continent. We all just ended up coming from one continent and then just, dispersing everywhere else. Like, no, that makes no sense.
Yeah, no, and it's all rooted in racist eugenics pseudoscience. I mean, most people that parrot around the out of Africa theory don't realize that comes from Charles Darwin, who was a racist
Mhm.
anthropologist eugenicist. I mean, they lied to us in school and told us his writing was called "The Theory of Natural Selection." That's not the full title. The full title was
Mhm.
"The Theory of Natural Selection and God's Favored Races." It was all about trying to say we all come from Africa and we're like inferior to white people and we're meant to be at the bottom and natural evolution. I mean, these folks don't
Yeah.
even know that they're quoting our colonizers when they talk about this Pan-African rhetoric.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I really appreciate you taking my call, and I'm definitely gonna call in some more, especially, because I'll pop in on the lives. I don't really watch too many of these people in the space, the FBA space. I really try to stick to like the educational stuff. I don't really
Yeah.
care about people ragging on immigrants and
Yeah.
who's illegal or who's legal or anything like that, or even when it comes to homegrown coons and caping for white supremacy. I am here for the education. I am here to learn. So when all the rest of that stuff gets to popping off, I'm ready to go. You
Mhm.
know. So I'm just grateful that you got recommended into my algorithm that just lets me know I'm still in alignment.
Yeah.
And
Most def.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you for all the hard work that you do, and I'm definitely gonna be, looking out to get a consultation done because I want to get some more genealogy done. I have a family member that does genealogy, um, but I don't think that he went too far because he's only a journalist.
Mhm.
So it's about the whole mass of the family and not
Yeah.
really like individual members of the family. So.
Yeah, well, hey, I appreciate your support. It's a pleasure connecting with you. And yeah, if you ever want more personalized guidance, definitely make sure to check out the website, nativeblackancestry.com. You can pull up my calendar, pick a day and time that works for you. And if you go
Mhm.
to book a consultation, make sure on checkout you use the coupon code TikTok, one word, all lowercase, and that's going to hook you up with a 20% discount off your consultation.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, you take it easy. Talk to you later.
All right, you too.
All right,
All
bye
right, bye
bye.
bye.
All right, hold on. Let me try to get in order, y'all. We had a couple people giving me a missed call while we were on the line with that lovely lady. 440 area code. I'm gonna give you a call back, and then we'll call back that 915 area code.
Hello?
Hey, you're live on Mike TV. Let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Oh, what's up? What's up, Michael? I just left you a message, man.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
what's
know
up.
if I don't know if it's Michael or Mike. I don't know. They call you Mike, but
Either way,
my,
either way works
yeah,
for
man.
me.
But it's cool talking to you, man. I was checking you out, man. I seen you, a couple months ago, and I've been trying to call you because I thought that my last name was Hopewell
Mm-hmm.
on my dad's side, because I was trying to trace that out myself, and I found out that that's not his last name anyway. He said his mom just held on to the name of someone that she was married to, but his mom though come from Caucasian side. You know what I'm saying? But his dad, it was always a mystery on who his dad was. But then he told me that his dad's last name was Donovan. So then that's when a little bit of what I know about, what was going on in the Scottish Isles and the British Isles at the time of, black people being in rulership there. I kind of was able to, understand and trace the name to here.
I got you for sure, for sure. And when you talk about black people being in rulership of like Scotland and Ireland, are you under the presumption that these black people were originally from America or Africa?
No, these people were, you know how like, well, these people were what you might want to call Israelites, basically, or these people were, people that related to us coming over here, the ones that came over here, last, in some capacity or form, he got over here. But I know that, last names like Douglas and Donovan, these are original names like Cordova and Toledo and stuff, looking up the history that was going on over there and even the 400s. I just had an imagination for it. So I don't know if he came over here on the slave ships. I don't know exactly how, but,
Wait, so are you thinking that you might have ties to these quote unquote black rulers of Scotland and Ireland because of that surname that your family holds?
Yeah, probably because of that surname. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, no. So this is a huge center of confusion that I try to clear up for folks as best as possible. While Europe did have some prominent melanated people within their hierarchy, I mean, we're mostly talking about Africans in Europe, especially when you hear about groups like the Moors. I mean, these are literally African conquistadors from Spain and Portugal, right? So when we see in our family tree these Scot-Irish surnames, that does not automatically mean that your ancestors came from these lands and they were melanated people that traveled over here. Really, it can be a number of things. You actually have to start doing extensive genealogy research because it could be the fact that these Scot-Irish men have been intermixing with indigenous communities in the Southeast since the 1500s. So you could have that surname due to that admixture, or it could be due to forced assimilation, baptizing, converting someone to Christianity. They would then assign them a different first name. Yeah, different last name. So, or it could be because of indentured servitude or enslavement. They're just branded with, the plantation owner's name. So there's so many different reasons why you would have that family surname. We just don't want to default to, Black Europeans because we really don't have any evidence to support that until we find the documents that support that.
Well, I mean, when it comes to, you said the Moors were actually, well, what do you want to say, three classifications of people. And well, like I said, in the 400s, the Moors came and protected the Israelites that were living there in Portugal and Spain in the 400s. And so that allowed them to be able to, be wise, basically, in medicine, in everything, really.
Yeah, they civilized them. They taught them mathematics. Shipbuilding. Yeah, but these Moors came from North Africa, right?
I just wanted to say this one quick thing real quick, but there's just three classifications of Moors, though. There were Moors that were Arabs, there was Moors that was Africans, and there was also Moors that weren't.
Okay, wait, hold on. You said there's three types of Moors. There's Moors that are African, there's Arab. Moors that are Arab, and then what's the third Moor?
The third that really wasn't either or.
If you're not an African and you're not an Arab, is he Chinese? Is he European?
No, probably wouldn't be Chinese, but probably would just be an Israelite or somebody who. But see,
what does an Israelite mean to you, though? Are you looking at this as an ethnic group or as a religion?
No, these are an ethnic group of people.
And are these Israelites light skinned or dark skinned or?
No, they were the color of all what we consider us as people. You know what I'm saying? Even some of them were probably, brighter skin, almost looking white, but not white.
So you're saying there's Israelites that are all the way white looking and all the way real dark looking?
Well, yeah, because you can see how we make children here in the United States. Just we Israelites over here mostly.
No, I got you. And what's the country of origin that you believe the Israelites come from? Because, you said African Moors. Slow down. You said African Moors, so we know they come from Africa. You said Berber Moors or something like that. They come from
or they could believe that they were African too, though. They could believe it, like how you say, they could believe that they were African, but probably weren't because of all the amalgamations that you were saying that was going on in those times. But it was just like, say, for example, when Spain was being, taken over by them other people, right? So say me and you were a Moor. but maybe I was just more secretive because
Sir,
I'm
not a Moor. I'm an American Indian. Totally
no,
different.
I'm just saying, say if we were over there at that time, and and we and you were just, amongst each other's company, and we just trying not to get killed at the time. But I'm a Moor that they would call a heretic.
Bro, wait, I'm confused. So in your case study, me and you are branded as Moors, and we're in what country exactly?
Say if we were in Portugal or Spain.
Okay, say we're in Portugal and Spain, and they would call you a heretic Moor, or?
Yes, they would call me a heretic Moor because
why would they
found out that. Well, because they found out that I follow the commands that God written in the Holy Bible.
Okay, so you follow God's commands in the Holy Bible, so you're a heretic.
Right.
And then what kind of Moor would they call me then?
Say if you were African Moor that didn't believe in the Holy Scriptures, say you believed in a whole nother and you believe in Allah or whatever, but you were still a Moor because you're dark-skinned. The only thing that probably would make us different is that I was bred to be circumcised on the 8th day, and maybe you weren't. So these are the things that, came into existence, with, people meeting people and then talking about.
Well, hold on. Just so we can quickly recap for anybody who's just now tuning in. You made the claim that you thought that you descended from Black Scot-Irish people because of your family's surname being of Scot-Irish origin. I gave you some
Hopewell.
Hold on.
I thought I was a Hopewell.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Try not to interrupt. I'm just trying to catching people up to speed real quick. So you thought that you had Black Scot-Irish heritage because of your family surname. I tried to enlighten you to the fact that there's a multitude of reasons why Black American communities have Scot-Irish surnames. The fact that the Scot-Irish have colonized the Southeast since the 1500s is one of them. And I gave the example that a lot of times when we're talking about Black, quote unquote, Black people in Europe, we're talking about people of African descent, such as the Moors. And it sounded like you wanted to kind of counter my claim that the Moors were of African descent. Is that right?
No, Moors are you had three different classifications of Moors: Arabs, Africans, and ones that were not.
An Arab is an African as far as I'm concerned. That's literally the same continent.
Well, but it's not the same. It's not the same progenitor.
They are all lumped together in this entity that is a Moor, whether you're a Berber Moor or you're an African Moor. They went over there and colonized Europe, then got kicked out. So they helped Europe colonize my ancestors. So again, when we talk about the Moors, I'm not sure why some people bring them up as if they're some kind of proud people to relish on. I mean, these are African conquistadors working on behalf of white folks, right? No. Yeah, and when we talk about Moors existing, let's make sure that we arm the people with the knowledge that these are African and Middle Eastern conquistadors working on. Don't interrupt me. I just told you. Now we got to hang up the call so I can finish my point. We let you babble on nonsensically about Israelites and Moors for far too long, when I'm actually trying to call back people who have genealogy questions, not folks who want to go down a pseudo rabbit hole talking about, I thought my ancestors were Black Scottish men because my family surname is Scottish. I mean, if you're being graced with this free game that you would normally have to book a consultation for, just take the game, chew it over, digest it. Don't try to combat me with this Moorish rhetoric. If you ever bring up the Moors on my platform, you better be letting the people know they were African conquistadors that worked on behalf of white Europeans to enslave and infiltrate indigenous American communities. Don't ever bring up one of my ancestors' fucking ops and try to talk like there's some cool, these Israelites, and they taught the Europeans mathematics. Why do we fucking care if some Africans taught some Europeans how to bathe? Why do we care if some Africans and Arabs taught the Europeans mathematics and how to travel by boat and shit when they just used that information to come colonize us? Christopher Columbus had Moorish guides teaching him how to get over here, Moorish interpreters. Y'all backdoored us. And I got to hear you Moorish sovereign citizen folks calling all the time, trying to circle jerk about what you think Moorish history is. It's cool. Some Africans colonized some Europeans for 400 or 500 years. That's sensational. I get it. We're used to the Europeans colonizing Africa. Some of you guys are surprised to learn that there was Middle Eastern and North African groups that colonized Portugal and Spain for hundreds of years. Congratulations. They then got kicked out. during the Reconquista. And instead of going back to Africa or the Middle East, they chose to work as conquistadors on behalf of Europeans to teach them how to come over here and exploit us and our resources. Come on now. I listened to the Moorish mumbo jumbo long enough. Let me get some zeros in the chat if you were also just as confused as I was when we hear this black Europeans, Moors, no, the Moorish, and then the Israelites and the blah, blah. What does that have to do with American Indian history or tracing your heritage? If we're talking about how the Moors helped colonize us, then the Moors are relevant. Other than that, I don't need to go down a rigmarole, a rabbit hole about what you heard online on some Israelite Moorish podcast. I mean, y'all are just as confused as me. Confusion. Very confused. Yep. Zero. Exactly. Jasmine's confused. God damn. I listened to it long enough, but when you're then going to interrupt me while I'm speaking, boy, bye. Who is this next person that had gave me a missed call? Hold on. What number are we on? 575 number. I'm going to go ahead and give you a call back now.
Hello, yes, this is Mike TV.
Yep, we're live. Let us know where you're calling in
Hey,
from.
buddy, this is Mercer from Taos, New Mexico. How you doing, brother?
You said from New Mexico?
Yes, Taos, New Mexico.
Nice. So
there's 19 Pueblos in New Mexico. 19 Pueblos.
Mm-hmm. And when you say Mexico, by way of?
No, New Mexico. New Mexico. A lot of people in the United States who are from the United States don't recognize the difference. Although I think it was like one of the 40th states of New Mexico, not Old Mexico. There was a war that happened, and anyway, it's it's older than Plymouth Rock, and there may be a few places in the Caribbean that Europeans came first, but Taos, New Mexico has the oldest standing buildings that are still inhabited in the United States of America.
And where's your family from originally?
My family? Oh man, I have family from everywhere. I think we all do by now. What about you?
Well, when you say we have family from everywhere, I mean, can you specifically name some countries your ancestors migrated from?
Sure. Alabama is my mother's side, mostly in Colorado in the United States is my father's side. But what about you? Where is your family from? Like your mother's side and your father's side?
Yeah, I'll totally answer that question, but I'm still trying to understand your answer. You said your mother's side's from, was it Alabama or Georgia?
No, the state of Alabama, yes.
The state of Alabama. Okay. And how about your father's side?
They got a lot of German immigration from via Missouri or Illinois, Missouri, Colorado.
Oh,
you know, they only go about 3 or 4 generations back on my father's side.
So
are you more interested in mother's side or father's side for genealogy?
Slow down.
Cool,
The reason why I'm asking is
I know
because I was trying to get an understanding of what countries your ancestors may have migrated from, and it sounds like they came from Germany, right?
On my father's side, or you want my mother's side? They're all intermarried.
I mean, can you just quickly list some other countries in Europe they came from other than Germany, or is Germany the only one that you have knowledge of?
Oh, no. Well, I could go on my father's side, I can only go about 3 back on each side, 3 generations. So like grandma or mom, or no, on this side it'd be dad's mom, and then dad's dad, and then dad's dad.
So the only country that you know is Germany, or is there another country that you can name?
I don't understand what you're asking. I thought
If you're too slow to understand the question, what countries are your family from, then you're too slow to have a conversation with me. Good Lord, you have to at least have base level intellect for me to give you moments of my time like that. Can't do nothing with you, pal. Can't do nothing with you. Good God. And notice how the pink belly always want to try to infiltrate. Oh, no, we're from Georgia. I don't know. We're from New Mexico. Okay, well, before New Mexico. Oh, Georgia, Alabama, Missouri. Okay, well, what country did they migrate? Oh, Germany. Hey. Everything he could to try to shuck and jive away from being the descendant of a German immigrant. Oh, okay. Damn. I can sense the insecurity steaming from the other end of the phone. Jesus. These white folks be slow. Let's see what I got to deal with. I'm just trying to answer some questions, maybe have a good debate. And we got slow people learning how to dial numbers on the phone. And they want to dial mine. We're probably going to do another 10 or so callbacks before we wrap up this broadcast. If there's any new people live who'd like to call in, the number is on the screen. And for everybody in the chat, let me know where you're tuning in from, what part of the country you in.
The wireless customer you are.
Uh-oh, you got to pay that phone bill, homeboy. You got to pay that phone bill. And you know what? In a second, I might transition to calling back some people on the West Coast. Here, I'll call one more on the East Coast, and then we'll transition to the, not even West Coast. We'll go Central Standard Time. Jasmine's in California. That's what's up. North or South? I'm from Northern Cali myself.
Hello?
Hey, you're live on Mike TV. Giving you a call back.
Who's this?
This is Mike. You called me, 2 days ago? No, yeah, that's too slow for me, lady. If somebody's playing on your phone, you better get him. You better get him. We got too many callbacks to make for y'all to be acting dumb when I give you a call back. That sounds like a little Becky or Barbara. Gee Willikers, Mike TV. Who's that? Who's that? Oh, that's that Negro Indian I tried to call him the other day to tell him he's really an African. Oh, Jasmine's in Central Cali. Nice. Nice. Central, what, like towards Bakersfield or like towards the Bay? Hello? I can't really hear you.
Hello, how you doing? Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I can kind of hear you a little better. Yeah, you're live with Mike TV. I'm just giving you a call back.
Mike, I'm a listener. I'm subscribed to your channel. You live on TikTok and YouTube?
Just YouTube these days.
Oh, so you have an AI running your channel? I know it's a sidebar question, but sometimes it seems like you on automatic pilot. Is that possible?
No, I don't have.
I'm giving too many secrets away.
Yeah, no. You're definitely not giving away any secrets. I run my own channel. I don't have a AI running my channel. Sometimes I might do live streams where I'm replaying previous broadcasts for people to catch up on what they missed, just like a cable TV station might play some reruns. But no, it's me live in the flesh, no AI. But yeah, if you can remember what you were originally calling about, over the last couple of days, if you have any questions or anything, I'm all ears.
Oh well, I watched too many of your clips, so I kind of forgot the last point because I thought I talked to you, and it was mainly about you asked everybody why they're not supporting Trump in the fact of everybody's going against Trump for the stupidity that he's saying, but that's like you
Yeah,
said, that's
no,
like
no,
a
no,
distraction.
no. Let's stop you right there. I don't discuss politics in that manner on my channel at all. So I think you might have me confused with somebody else.
Oh, so yeah. So that possibly was a bot channel.
Yeah.
But
I'm
but
not
but my
sure.
overall question, I just wanted to say, how do we back the claim that we're indigenous to here?
By tracing your family's genealogy.
But if everything is hidden and locked away, how do we really get true access to that? Because, like, I'm pretty sure you had to spend some capital to get access to those resources.
No, not necessarily. I mean, nowadays there's a lot of free digital archival databases that you can do research on. Have you ever attempted to trace your family's genealogy before?
No, because my grandma lived to be 98. She told me she was Indian. She told me that how white people came over here and basically mixed with the people here and took over the land, but not in depth. But like I say, if we don't have a solution to the knowledge that you're bringing forward, it's going to be kind of hard to get back that power that was once of the land. Because all we are people from the land, and we don't need a paper to tell us who's actually from the land.
Okay. Yeah. So when I was asking you if you did genealogy research, I wasn't referring to the oral tradition passed down in your family, although oral tradition is very valuable. What I was really talking about is documentation. Have you ever tried to do any research on documentation on your family going back into the previous eras, or have you not even attempted to do a family tree yet?
No, I attempted, but I kind of wasted funds on like a dead end kind of nowhere because who's gonna have a record from 1,000 years ago? That's my whole. I sometimes put that on in your chat. That's why I asked you, do you have AI, and when do you actually be live? Because I'm subscribed, and for some reason YouTube doesn't send out your notification, or maybe I have to check my settings. But a lot of people tell me sometimes some of your shows aren't publicated as going live. We don't get that notification.
Yeah. Sometimes the notifications don't go out, but when we talk about genealogy research, we definitely don't have to reach back 1,000 years. I mean, if you're just trying to understand more about what your family went through within the last 400 years through different eras of American colonialism, figure out what tribes they have connections to. I mean, you really don't have to go back 1,000 years to do that. But I totally understand. You may be feeling a little bit defeated because you attempted to do the research and you may have hit some brick walls, some glass ceilings. But at the end of the day, the information's out there. It's just about learning how to properly research it. And that's why I became a full-time genealogist. And that's why I let people book an hour of my time so I can teach them how to do the genealogical research so that they don't end up paying for a bunch of subscriptions they don't need and spinning their wheels. Because as far as tracing your heritage, this is the time to do it. I mean, we have the greatest access to technology. You mentioned artificial intelligence. I mean, artificial intelligence is a powerful tool for genealogy research. Oftentimes, I'll upload colonial documents into an AI program that I curated to translate, Old English to present English or to decipher some blurry documents. So, I just hope you don't continue to feel so defeated. I mean, if you need help with genealogy research, definitely check out the website. But, these things can definitely be researched.
Oh yeah, I definitely was gonna check out your website because you have links and you have I guess, resources to obtain certain information. So I was going to give you a couple more months to not to fill you out, but just, start support your channel more than just a one-time kind of thing. So my next, I guess, rebuttal to your whole archive of information that you've already publicated to the YouTube. How do you combat, or how do you negate, or not get, like I say, not get what's the right word I'm looking for, not to hold you up? How do you respond to people who address you in the manner that you address all these different parties that are trying to give us identities that are not in line with what you are presenting to us as indigenous?
Yeah, I don't think I understand your question. Could you try to
all right,
clarify that a little bit?
You know how you said all these Hebrew Israelites, Pan-Africanism, all this identity changing that they've been trying to push on us for the past 100 years, when they were trying to cover up the fact that they told us that it was people here before the slave propaganda and everything. So how do you combat or respond to the people who say you're doing the same thing? You're pushing the indigenous agenda to try and get people to look at it in a different way, like it's for profit. How do you respond to people who say that you're doing the same thing?
Well, if I understand your question correctly, it's kind of twofold. The first half of your question is like, what do I say to people who think I'm trying to push some kind of indigenous dogma? And then the second part of your question would be like, what do I say to people who think I'm just doing this for profit or something? To address your first point, I would simply clarify my positions. The difference between me and a Pan-African or any of these other groups that you mentioned is that they are absolutists. They think that they can dictate heritage for every single melanated person in North America. They make statements like all Black people come from Africa. All of us come from West African slaves. You have no indigenous roots. That's all fake. They speak in absolutes. I never speak in absolutes. You'll never hear me saying every single melanated person in North America comes from an American Indian. I don't make claims like that because a claim like that would be false. You have to do your family's genealogy to figure out what your ancestry is, which is why I simply promote for people to do their genealogy. The Moors, the Israelites, the Hebrews, the Pan-Africans, me and them are not in the same field. We're not in the same genre. We're not in the same ballpark at all. They're out there promoting pseudo rhetoric for clips and views and ad revenue. And I'm simply promoting people to do their genealogy because you really don't know who you are or who your ancestors were until you do that genealogical research. There's Black Americans who have no African admixture. There are Black Americans that have some African admixture. There are some genealogy clients of mine who have indigenous Caribbean lineage mixed in with European heritage, mixed in with Gulf Coast indigenous groups. I mean, I would never speak on our community or our culture in monolithical terms. You really have to do your family's genealogy to figure out where you fit uniquely in this community. But to address your second point, you said something about what would I say to people who think that I'm doing this for profit or monetary gain or something like that. Can you clarify that question a little bit?
Well, no, it was just like a piggyback on what you or how you explain your difference between yourself and what these other identity groups have been paid to basically push and pander on Black people who don't know their history, and for people who are free thinkers. I wouldn't even say free thinkers. Anybody who has a thinking mind. If you were in the education system, you got taught the same thing. So if you were taught to think the way that they taught us to think, then you would be brainwashed or just following idly, because if you don't have your own brain to kind of formulate reasonable, logical, explanations, then you kind of like, you're going to be blind and lost. But that's why I asked you not to throw off your original question on what was I talking about. It was just piggybacking.
You said something about monetary or finances or something along those lines, right?
Because on one of your on one of your streams, you said how these different factions or group are paid to push this black Afro centric identity. When like you said, I can fact check that my people was here 100 years ago, and most of the people that's claiming that they're different kind of Americans, meaning their parents probably were immigrants, as such as the colonizers and the colonial people who traversed over here.
Okay, yeah, but as it relates to people being funded by groups or something, I think you kind of asked me like how I would respond if people were to say that I'm funded by a group or what?
No, you're not saying that you're funded, because in one of your videos you said all of these other different groups. In example, the Hebrew Israelites, the Dr. Umars, the Nation of Islam, the Jesse Jacksons, they've been pushing that this black African American identity rather than an American identity, no matter if you're melanated, light-skinned, whatever your skin tone shade is, doesn't define where you come from. Like you say, most of the Indians come from the Americas, not they were brought here from Africa, and then over the years they just became Americans.
Yeah, no, I get it. Again, it just sounded like just like your first point was like, hey, you say that Pan-Africans and other groups can be propagandists. What would you say if someone said the same thing about you? Well, in that same vein, it sounded like you were also asking, like, what would I think if someone said the same thing about me as far as financial motivations or something like that? But maybe I just misunderstood you. But yeah, if you have any other questions or closing remarks, go for it. I'm all ears.
No, that was it, because I was just basically trying to see how do you respond to the people who push back what you are saying to them about those groups that they're following. But you already answered it perfectly. Like you say, you don't speak in absolutes. You're not saying all are the same. You're just saying, for my people, this is what it is, and giving the information to obtain the resources.
Yep, absolutely. And also, furthermore, to drive that point home, a lot of these other groups also function like cults, also kind of function like viruses, in the sense that they're not content with just believing that they're Israelites or believing that they're Hebrew or believing that they are a part of some African diaspora. That's not enough. They're hell-bent on trying to convince us that because they believe that's their heritage, it has to be our heritage too. And that's another, big distinction between me and the message that I teach versus these other groups. I'm never going to say, hey guys, I did my genealogy. I'm a Muskogee Creek Indian, so all of you guys are Muskogee Creek Indians. That's not the way it works. But we find so many of these people that are loosely members of our communities talking about, I did an ancestry, African ancestry DNA test, and this said I'm African. So all of you guys are pretend Indians, and you're really African like I'm African. I mean, that's the psyops.
Yeah, that's that word. Yeah, like you said, that's the psyops. They try to get you to follow the simulation that they've been running. But again, I appreciate the time, but it's kind of crazy that you said that.
Yeah,
because basically they want the reparations and the access to the resources that you saying was taken away or was owed.
Yeah. And a lot of them are just working as different arms of our colonial overlords. I mean, this has been going on for hundreds of years. Hundreds of the Boule, the Freedman people starting these African Methodist Episcopal Church, these Prince Hall Freemasons, all these different folks working on behalf of our opposition.
Well, if you get in any group, like you say, outside of the natural order of a community, a village, and a group of people, and start practicing following anything other than what's under the sun, then you're gonna have room for all this, man-made, idealistic teaching.
Yep, I feel you. Most def. Well, hey, it was a pleasure connecting with you. Again, if you ever want some personalized guidance with genealogy research, definitely make sure to check out the website. Some people consult with me after watching one video. Some people watch me for years before booking me for a consultation. So definitely no pressure on that. Just whenever the time's right, if the time's ever right, I'm definitely here to help.
No, like I said, I appreciate the time because you got a lot of information that I have to intake. So hopefully we got time to discover more. But my last thing, I'm going to go back to the 1,000 years. How do we know what happened 1,000 years ago if nobody was here from 1,000 years ago?
But why should we be worried about what happened 1,000 years ago before understanding what happened 100 years ago or 200 years ago or 300 years ago? I mean, if we move forward in time incrementally, then we have to move backwards in time incrementally as well. Why are we going to jump all the way to 1,000 years ago before understanding what happened last week, last month, last decade, last century? I mean, you have to start in order.
Well, I want to go back past the 400 years of what they've been teaching the past, 400 years in education. That's all.
Oh no, I get that, but you can't go past it until you've already went through that, until you've already researched the last 400 years and have an understanding of that. Then you can go to the last 800 years, right? But it's kind of like the adage of trying to run before you can crawl. Anybody can pontificate over what happened in this land 1,000 years ago, but a more accurate way to discern what was going on is by tracing it back, retrace these racial classifications, retrace these different territorial disputes, these different colonizing factions. And by reviewing the history in that manner, you can get yourself out there to 1,000 years in the past.
Well, no. Like I said, I appreciate the insight. Like I say, hopefully I get to connect on a longer stream.
Yeah, for sure. Most def. Well, thanks for calling in. Talk to you later.
All right.
Peace. All right, 541 area code. I'm gonna give you a call back. Hello.
Hello. Hey, how you doing, Mike?
Hey, doing well. We're live. Let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
I'm calling from Oregon, and I just want to ask this is a quick question because I have a friend who keeps insisting that he's Native, and I've been trying to tell him like you can only be Native if you were married in, or pretty much just like married in, like you're saying. So, do you know anything about the Shasta or Mount Shasta natives?
Yeah, I mean, is there something specific about the indigenous groups around Mount Shasta that you'd like to learn about?
Yes. So my friend is a Norse person. He's a Viking, blood Viking. I've seen his DNA test. So like he's from all the way over there, and he keeps saying that his grandma and his mother is Native to that specific clan of members over there. And I'm trying to pinpoint to him like y'all can't be related or blood Native. So I just wanted to call you real fast so I can record it so I can send it to him so he can just stop talking about it.
Okay, wait, hold on. I'm a little confused. So he says he descends from Vikings, and he found that out through a DNA test?
Yes.
Okay,
and he also has
and the descendants of Vikings, if they're truly descendants of Vikings, they would nowadays be in countries like Sweden, Denmark, or Norway. So is he claiming that him and his family are indigenous to Norway, Denmark, or Sweden, or that they're indigenous to the Americas?
So he's claiming that he is Viking, full blood Viking. He's straight from over there, Norway.
Okay.
And he's claiming on the side that he's also Native, and I've seen his mother's
Native
Native
to where?
card.
Native to where?
America.
Okay.
Like he's saying that he's Mount Shasta Native.
Okay.
So I'm trying to tell him that you can't be Native American, like over here in America, not over there in another country, like over here on this side.
Well, technically speaking, though, he could have American Indian heritage.
That's true. He could, but I seen his DNA test is what I'm saying. Like I know that I know what type of race he is, like where he generally comes from.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just confused
So,
on.
so again, it is possible for him to have American Indian heritage, considering so many Europeans came to the Americas and interbred with indigenous populations. So he could have dual Denmark, Sweden, Norway heritage, and some kind of tribal ties to the Mount Shasta area. So I mean, it's plausible. But the second point would be, I mean, why do we care? Why do we care if some white boy claims that he took a DNA test and it says he's Viking and Native American? I mean, why do we care?
You know what? You're right. You know, actually,
I
yeah.
mean, we got a whole lot of things to focus on individually as a community. I mean, that's like me having a friend who's South Korean and he's trying to tell me, nah, matter of fact, I know my family's from South Korea, but really we originally from North Korea. I mean, I'm not gonna debate him on that or what he thinks he's from or whatever. I mean, keep it pushing. I don't care. My name is Bennett. I ain't in it.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Damn. All right.
Yep. But hey, since I got you on the line, you have any other questions that come to mind?
Nah. Nah. Nope. Not really. Honestly, the only thing I only want to say is that I really love your videos, man. Like you're really pouring out knowledge that we need to get out to our people. So yeah.
Yeah,
That's about
absolutely.
it.
Well, I appreciate you supporting the content. And if you ever have any questions or want to tap in on genealogy research, hit me up.
All right, for sure. Thank you. Appreciate it, Mike. Have a
Yep,
good night.
take it easy. Yeah, that actually reminds me of a caller I had not too long ago. They were like, Mike, I work a warehouse job, and some girl, she's like an African migrant, and I was trying to convince her that Black people are American Indians, that they're not Africans, and she ended up snitching to saying I made her feel uncomfortable, and I got written up at work. Like, how should I have handled this? And I'm just like, why are you debating ancestry with a foreigner on the clock at work? Like, I mean, why are we even engaging in this, right? Like, come on. So like in that same vein, if in Mount Shasta Native, I mean, hey, good on you, little tink tink. Do your thing, little tink tink. But who is this trying to call me?
Call from.
Caller, you're live. Let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
My name is the Alpha Warrior Horse Johnny's Mike, and I heard a lot about you, and I'm calling concerning my ancestry background. My ancestors go all the way back.
Yeah, I can't hear you. I'm not sure if you can speak up a little bit.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Try one more time. Try to get a little closer.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you better. Yep. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, my name is the Alpha Warrior Horse Denise. I'm Cherokee.
Wait,
and I'm from Houston.
You said that your name was what again? It's kind of hard to
the
understand.
The Alpha Warrior Horse Janice.
The Alpha Warrior Horse Janice?
Yes.
Okay, I got it. And you said that you're Cherokee.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. You have the floor.
All right. I want to check with you about my ancestry background. As far as I know, I go all the way back to the 15th century of Nova Scotia, Canada. My great-great-grandfather was Chief Henry Mollental.
Okay, for sure. I'm listening.
All right. And I've got my card ever since. Took me 15 years to get my card from Louisiana, from Iowa, Louisiana. And the chief name was I can't think right now. Well, anyway, I wanted you to see how much you would charge for me to therefore do my back to check and see as far as it goes. As far as
I got you.
15th century.
Gotcha. So basically your question is, if you were to hire me to trace your family's genealogy, how much would it cost?
Yes.
Yeah, so That's only a service that I provide for genealogy clients of mine. And the reason for that is because I always believe in, teaching someone how to fish instead of giving someone a fish. So during those one-on-one genealogy consultations I provide through my website, nativeblack.ancestry.com, I actually teach you the three-step process that me and my family used to trace our heritage and get tribal citizenship. And after you have a clear understanding of what it looks like to conduct that research, if you still come to the conclusion that, hey, Mike, this is a bit complicated, I'd just rather hire you to do it. Or, hey, Mike, I'm not that good with technology. I think, I'd rather get your professional help. Well, we can cross that bridge once we get there and come up with a custom plan of action. But it all starts with the initial genealogy consultation so that we can arm you with information on what this research process entails, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, Mike.
Perfect. Now, as far as the cost of the consultation, it's really going to be dependent on the various add-ons. I mean, I think the lowest cost consultation I provide right now is $225. It's a little extra if you want the session to be recorded. That way you don't have to worry about taking notes. You can share the recording with any family, any friends, or sometimes people pay for another add-on that's an indigenous history lesson, where instead of the consultation being 1 hour, it's more like 2.5 to 3 hours. And I give you a lot of historical context on the colonization of the Americas and where we fit in that picture.
Okay. And one thing I want to ask you, right now I'm 72. Well, in August I'll be 72. And what I was more concerned is how far it goes, because as far as I went up to the 16th century when he died. And I know he had parents and grandparents. Could you have gone that far? Because I know it extends a little bit further than that.
Wait, so you're asking me if I can get back into the 16th century?
Yes.
Yes, so that's really going to be heavily dependent on available records. I've got some people that I'm able to help trace all the way to the 1300s, the 1400s. Some people, the paper trail runs out at the early 1800s, late 1700s. So we really have no idea until we start doing the genealogical research.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like a good example I can give is like, let's say the check engine light comes on in your car and you take it to an auto shop and you're like, hey, how much is it going to cost for you to fix my car, turn this check engine light off? Well, they're not going to give you a price. They're going to say, no, first we run a diagnostic. First we get under the hood. We see what we're looking at. We try to diagnose the issue. Then we can come up with a plan of action, et cetera, et cetera. But, I really like to start people with a consultation. And I don't even advertise publicly any service where it's like, hey, hire Mike to trace your genealogy, because I really want people coming to me for that primarily. I would really love to mostly teach people how to do it on their own. And after I teach you how to do it on your own, if you still decide you'd rather hire me to do the research for you, then we can cross that bridge once we get there.
Well, I would like you to hire me to do it on my own as well. And I'm interested in anything you can tell me to give me a good start, because I've done my research in Louisiana and Father Hebert, because mostly kept records of midwives, during that time. And most of all the old people are dead. Most of all the elders are gone. My parents are gone. Everybody is gone. I just have my sisters, my nieces and nephews, and I'm the only surviving male so far. I have 5 sisters, had 6, but one of them deceased. So that's what you're working with, just me right now.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from. And what I would definitely advise for you is, if you really need personalized guidance, if you're interested in booking a consultation, first try to see if you can find a grandchild, a niece, someone between the age of 20 to 30 something that has a grasp on technology and can show you how to book that consultation. Maybe they can even sit on the consultation meeting with us so that they can also see what this process is about. Because if this was something that you wanted to pull the trigger on, from an ethical standpoint, I would definitely feel much more comfortable if you had somebody who's, knowledgeable on technology, who can kind of be a resource for you and help guide you through this.
Well, I have a cousin in Kansas City named Delmita Qualles, Qualles, and she's been doing a lot of stuff as well. And maybe she have called into your talk show. You probably spoke to her. She's in
really?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah, small
Right.
world, maybe.
So therefore, we've been working together
Mhm.
with this. And I want to know, as far as it goes, because I'm registered already. My card number is 0147. That's my number as far as registration goes. The Attackapar Eagle Tribe in Iowa, Louisiana.
Nice. That's what's up. Well, hey, I appreciate you calling in. I got to wrap up this broadcast pretty soon, but yeah, if you need any,
But you have
precise
my number, right? Keep my number.
Okay.
Keep my number. Keep
Will
my
do.
number.
Will do.
Okay.
It was a pleasure speaking with you. Take
You
it
too.
easy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, I got to get out of here. Let me just call back these last two people that gave me a missed call. 267 number. I'm going to go ahead and give you a call back now. Give me just a second.
Hello?
Hey, you're live on Mike TV. Giving you a call back. How's it going?
Hello?
Can you hear me? All right. Well, we don't have time for whatever audio issues that was about. 412 number. I'm going to go ahead and call you back right now. You're going to be the last call of the day.
Hello?
Hi, you're live with Mike. Let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Hey, my name is Tiffany, and I'm calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And it's a little bit hard to hear you. I'm not sure if you can come a little closer to the microphone or.
I'm going to take myself off of my headphones. Can you hear me better?
No, I can hear you a lot better. Yep.
Okay, I'm so surprised I got you live. Hello.
Hello.
I'm by the way of Pittsburgh. My family on my grandma's side is actually from Virginia.
Nice.
And I ran across your broadcast probably about 2 months ago, and that had me go to Ancestry.com and try to figure out some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went there, I traced my family all the way back to, 1794. And they were from Virginia all the time, and they were classified as mulatto. And so I ran across a lot of my family, and they were classified as mulatto and also dark mulatto. And I said, wow, that's interesting because I never heard of a dark mulatto before. So right now, that's where I'm at. I'm just trying to figure it all out.
I got you for sure. And you said that you trace it back to the 1700s so far?
Yes.
And was that on
1794.
Okay, and was that on both sides of your family or just one side?
That's on my grandma's side, but my grandfather's side, I just recently traced it back to the early 1800s, and he's from Georgia, that area.
Okay, I got you. So, I mean, as far as next steps, I'd really have to understand more in depth, how far you've got in the genealogical process. But so far, I mean, it sounds like you'd be a perfect candidate for a genealogy consultation, because if you just heard the last call, I was telling the last caller how I really designed the consultations to help people like you that have already started the research so that you can learn the next steps you need to take, save some money instead of hiring a professional, etc. But just based off what you told me so far, I would definitely say we've got to start by getting all the rest of the branches of your family tree traced back to at least the late 1700s, early 1800s as well. And then from there, we want to start taking people, running them through different tribal databases, looking up birth certificates, death certificates, muster rolls, land allotments, baptismal records even. And then from there, we really want to start seeing how their racial reclassification shifts from one census to the next. You know, you may have some people popping up in a census as mulatto, next census they're black. So, you know, there's
that's
a lot
what's been
of
happening.
Yeah. So it's really about reversing that trail of paper genocide, and also having an understanding of the contextual history of that area. You know, what tribes were in that region, what battles were fought, where did the captives go? Were they shipped to the Caribbean? Were they sent to local plantations as slaves, et cetera, et cetera? Because I think you said you have heritage in Louisiana, right?
No, it's Georgia from right now.
Oh, Georgia. Okay, I got you mixed up. Yeah. So
Georgia.
even in a place like Georgia, you have people who are listed as free persons of color. So, you know, we really got to start by doing the paper trail research to figure out where your ancestors fit into these different eras of colonialism. Because, you know, a lot of my clients are even surprised to learn that, you know, they don't descend from plantation slaves, or, you know, they may have thought that their family's from Georgia or Florida, but before that they were actually in Pennsylvania, Virginia. And, you know, after Indian removal, they get shipped down there to work in different indentured contracts or different forms of slavery. So, yeah.
Mike, I am so happy that you mentioned that, because I almost forgot to tell you. Actually, in Virginia, my great, he's my fifth great. He was actually a freed person, and he was an apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I stopped. I couldn't find anything else. But he was free. He was born free. And I was like, wow, that's so interesting. And he was the one that was a mulatto that married the dark mulatto, and all the children were classified as mulatto.
Mm-hmm. And then his bloodline over time, around late 1800s, early 1900s, gets reclassified to Negro, colored, black, right?
Yep. Yep,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a tale as old as time. But yeah, I got to wrap up this broadcast sooner than later. But to answer your question and to kind of give you a push in the right direction, I would really work on, you know, fleshing out the other parts of your family tree as well. If there's information you can't source on Ancestry.com, you can also try other archives like FamilySearch.org, MyHeritage.com, et cetera, et cetera. Or if you want my personalized guidance and you're interested in booking a consultation, just make sure to use the coupon code TikTok. That's one word, all lowercase, and that'll hook you up with a 20% discount.
I definitely will, and I'll be contacting you soon. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's all I have for you today. Definitely make sure to check out the website, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Who do we have in the chat all throughout? We had Kosher in the building. I know Jasmine's been here for a hot minute. We got Empress in the house as always. Shout out to Empress. Endless was asking if he was trolling earlier. Yeah, we had a couple pink bellies try to infiltrate. But I'll see you guys later. Take it easy. Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.